I choose not to give in to my fate.
You don't want to fight it. It seems like you and me have been fighting our fates full time lately. Just promise we'll try and find another way.
People have to go away, even when they don't want to.
We'll figure this thing out together.
2012. Here we are. What a year. Haven is absolutely thriving on Syfy with the success of its past 2 seasons, but it's about to hit its all-time high in terms of viewership, ratings, vibes, storytelling, because season 3 is about to start airing. It's the moment. She's here. Let's get excited. Season 3 is my all-time favorite. It has my all-time favorite episodes. It is perfect. So we've also reached the point where I think I need to do a quick recap before we get into the recap. So let's just do that. Audrey Parker used to be an FBI agent. Now she works at Haven PD. So she is immune to the Troubles, which, as we know, are the supernatural curses that a bunch of people in Haven have. So she's immune. She does this really cool thing where every 27 years she reincarnates, sort of, shows up in Haven, helps out people with the Troubles when the Troubles come back, and then she disappears, and then for 27 years the Troubles disappear too, and then the Troubles come back, and then she comes back as someone new memories, new identity, whole new person, and she helps out with the Troubles again. Sarah from the 1950s with the scary wig, she gets redemption this season, don't worry. And then we have Lucy from the 1980s. Also, her and Nathan had their first kiss last season, so he is an official love interest. Let's get excited. Next up we have Nathan, our favourite man, Audrey's partner at the police department. He's also currently the chief of police. He has a trouble himself in which he is completely numb. Can't feel anything, which is fun for him, but he can feel Audrey. So that's where the start of their connection happened, but they're just soulmates. So next up we have Duke. He and Nathan grew up together. Bit of a tumultuous relationship, as we'll get into. He recently discovered that trying to find a simple way to describe what's going on with Duke is difficult. The Crocker family curse, the Crocker trouble, is that when they kill a troubled person, they kill that trouble forever. Because normally troubles are passed down generationally, but when a Crocker kills a troubled person, murders them, they kill that trouble forever. They sort of absorb it, maybe. Maybe that's some foreshadowing for you. You're welcome. So Duke is struggling with that, the concept of you could kill people to get rid of a trouble, but also the killing people part is not ideal. His ghost dad came back last season, which was a fun appearance from him. Thanks, Simon. He said that Audrey's past selves have killed off the Crockers because of the whole murdering troubled people. She hasn't been too thrilled about that. So we can gather that Sarah, Audrey's 1950s self, killed off Grandpa Crocker. We don't have a name for him yet. And then Lucy, 1980s Audrey, killed off Simon. And so then Simon thinks that Audrey, 2010's Audrey, is going to kill Duke. We don't think that's going to happen, but things are awkward between them. Is that everything with Duke? I think that's most of it, I hope. We left off last season with Audrey and Nathan about to do a little date for the first time, like an official romantic date, but Audrey got tased and taken from her apartment, so that wasn't fun. Nathan arrived at the apartment and found Duke's whistle that he wears all the time and immediately assumed that Duke had something to do with it and maybe is trying to kill Audrey because of the whole killing each other history, that whole situation. So he's convinced that Duke's done something to Audrey. He shows up at Duke's boat, which he lives on, as we know, famously, and he is confronting Duke. Oh, I forgot to mention the tattoo. I knew I was missing something. There was a trouble back in season 1 where a woman could see how you're gonna die. She saw Duke get strangled or something by a man with a specific tattoo. Duke's been scared of people with that tattoo since then, and Nathan got himself that tattoo so that he could kill Duke. That's the sitch. That's where we left off. So let's pick it up, shall we? Super quick though, I do have to talk about the DVD menu for season 3. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who thought that that was a good idea. It is so bizarre, and it just you put the disc in and it just starts playing and it starts happening. I feel like I contractually had to mention it. As part of doing this series, I couldn't not mention how bizarre the DVD menu is. It's a little bit of a vibe, but it's a lot. Let's get into episode 1. Season 3, episode 1 is titled 301, and it starts off this absolute banger of a season. So something really fun that's happened in between seasons is that Eric Balfour has grown out his hair significantly. So they've actually reshot the confrontation on the boat from the end of last season and put that in this season's recap. and just pretended like it isn't a thing. It's supposed to be seconds after the last season, and his hair is so much longer. I love it. It adds to the pirate vibes, but I think it's very funny that his hair is just, because I'm watching this back to back, and his hair is just long, really long. I love it. Anyway, we pick back up right where we left off, on the boat where tensions are really high. We don't know if someone shot someone, and that whole situation. We do see that the shot that we heard at the very end of the season was just Duke getting a shot off from his gun and not hitting anyone, so no one's dead, of course. So our two men are just fighting. It's brutal, it's a lot. Some of Nathan's very troubled blood lands on Duke's head and sinks into him, which causes his whole supernatural strength thing because of the Crocker curse where he can kill troubled people. He gets the silver eyes and the whole moment. Then everything metal flies up to the roof of the boat out of nowhere. The two of them, sorry, I need my pointer. Also, if you're wondering, hey, is that a fake 1920s cigarette holder from the costume section of a Dollar King? Yes, it is. These two pause the fighting to acknowledge the magnet situation. Duke clarifies that this is definitely not a him thing. That's not part of what his trouble does. It's not a magnet trouble. It's a murder trouble.
Not me.
He also clarifies that he has no idea where Audrey is or what happened. This is a setup. Speaking of our girl, we catch up with her tied to a pole in a basement. Things have looked better for her. Someone in a mask. Are they wearing a mask? I don't know. You'll see a clip. I can't remember if they're wearing a mask. This mystery person asks Audrey where the Colorado kid is.
Where's the Colorado kid?
Which is a weird thing to ask because famously he died on the beach. Audrey's less than receptive to giving the psycho kidnapper any information or any help. Welcome to season 3. Here we are. Nathan explains explicitly why he got the death tattoo, which is what I've been calling it. It will get a new name this season, but the death tattoo, I'll stop calling it death tattoo eventually. Nathan explains, yep, I got this because I do in fact need to be able to kill you if needed.
If you're supposed to die at the hands of somebody with this tattoo, I need to be on the approved list.
So that's really nice of him. Duke explains that he's not like his trouble-killing ancestors. He's like, that's not what I want to do. And someone has definitely planted my whistle in Audrey's apartment to make you think that I've done something to her. Duke hands Nathan his gun, and the two of them form a temporary truce to try and find Audrey. Picking back up in town, the magnet situation has affected all of Haven, of course. So to help mitigate the chaos a little bit, we have our favourite bullet magnet, Dwight. He's also sporting a brand new hairdo. It's like Eric Balfour and Adam Copeland swapped hair in between seasons. I love it. Duke and Nathan show up to town looking a little bit beat up. They meet up with Dwight. Duke and Dwight still aren't in a great place after their conflicts last season. Things are a little bit awkward between the two of them. It is quite funny though.
I guess I haven't learned my lesson.
You haven't learned your lesson.
Enough. What?
So Nathan tells Dwight that Audrey's missing. Dwight says he'll handle the trouble in town and they should get to finding Audrey ASAP. Stan steps in, we love Stan, to tell Nathan that another woman has also been abducted very recently. Not a big town, probably connected. Duke and Nathan arrive at an inn where the second woman was abducted from. So this woman's name is Rosalind. She's been abducted from her inn that she owns, and her son is there telling them that she's been abducted. That was a long way to explain that, but you get what I mean. So this son of Rosalind is convinced that his mum was abducted by aliens.
Aliens.
That's what he thinks has happened. Duke and Nathan don't love the theory, obviously, but they play along a little bit to get the son to come to the station and give more info, but the son runs away instead. Then we see that the basement that Audrey is trapped in is actually underneath the inn that our men were just at and where Rosalind was abducted from. So she's right there, but they don't know that she's there. But that's where she is. She's under the inn. The psycho is back and asking Audrey where the Colorado kid is again. He's really stuck on that. Audrey tries to explain that there was another woman who looked like her 27 years ago, but the psycho guy says that he knows that that's still the same person, that she is that person from 27 years ago. So that's a scary thing for him to know. Then he says something really interesting, which is that Audrey is not the only person who loved the Colorado kid.
I think you're the only one who loved the Colorado kid.
That's an interesting thing to say. Moving on, Duke and Nathan are now in pursuit of Rosalind's son, who I'm going to start calling Alien Guy, because he thinks that aliens have taken his mum and Audrey by proxy, I guess. Nathan's Bronco randomly breaks down, and then his radio and their phones stop working too. Back in the really fun basement, Audrey hears a woman talking to her suddenly, explaining that she's trapped down there too. She says her name is Rosalind. Alien guy's mum, Rosalind from the inn, is down in the basement underneath the inn with Audrey. Duke and Nathan have a little spat about the car breaking down. Nathan is still really cranky.
You've been telling me what I can't do since we were kids. Do not tell me I can't fix this.
Duke calls him out a little bit for his tantrum.
You are in love with Audrey. But did you think that was a secret?
Nathan finally tells Duke that he can feel Audrey,
Audrey touches me, I can feel it. She's the only one I can feel.
which is something that I forgot that Duke didn't know. Before anyone can kind of deal with that though, Nathan gets supernaturally dragged into a field with alien symbols, crop circles, is that what they're called? Crop circles? So it is looking fairly alien-esque. Then they see an alien spaceship fly past them. So now it really is looking very alien. This alien ship then crashes into the ground right next to the inn that Audrey and Rosalind are in, and then it like shakes the place a little bit. It knocks over a lantern, which then causes a fire right next to Audrey, who is, as we know, currently tied to a pole. She puts out the fire and then grabs some shards of glass from the lantern and starts trying to use the glass to free herself. It's looking good for our girl. She's got this. Duke and Nathan now arrive at Alien Guy's house. Inside Alien Guy's house, they see a bunch of papers and alien stuff. So the alien stuff is happening because Alien Guy's trouble is that when he believes something like that, it starts to come true. He believes that a mothership is coming to destroy Haven. So because how his thing works with it believing it and it comes true, that's going to be happening soon. There's going to be a mothership, it's going to destroy Haven, the usual kind of the whole town is in peril situation. Back in the basement, Audrey is trying to cut through the ropes and free herself. She makes kind of a really sweet comment to Rosalind about wishing that she was Nathan.
I just wish I was Nathan right now. He's my partner. A little bit better with pain than I am.
She also opens up to Rosalind a little bit about how the only memories she has of her own are from the last 6 months. Everything else is fake identity time because of the reincarnation situation. So that's really fun for her. She's opening up about it.
Complicated. It's not an impossible way to live.
She's just overall not having a great time right now. This is not the best start to the season for her. Suddenly she hears Rosalind get attacked by someone, and when she finally frees herself, she sees that Rosalind has now disappeared. Audrey then grabs a weapon and heads upstairs. She's like, I'm out of here. I've had enough of the basement, and we all have. Let's get out of there, girl. Alien guy claims that this is not a trouble of his and that the aliens are real. He's like, obviously they're real, look at them. It's not a me problem, it's an alien problem. Nathan then gets a really fun call from Audrey, who is still at the inn trying to escape. She calls Nathan, she's like, this is where I am, come get me. So Nathan then comes running, of course. Audrey's sneaking around the inn with her little weapon, trying to not get attacked again, which would be ideal. She gets grabbed out of nowhere, but it's okay because it's just Duke. It's just a boy, Duke. But then Audrey sees Nathan and immediately runs over to him and they embrace and it's adorable and I love them. Unfortunately, they can't enjoy the reunion for too much longer because Alien Guy's trouble is about to destroy all of Haven. Everyone runs outside to find Rosalind's body being burnt up. R.I.P. Rosalind, barely knew ya. Alien Guy is now just more convinced that it's aliens though. He's like, yeah, this is what they do. This is aliens that have killed my mum. Nathan checks in that Audrey is okay to do her trouble-solving magic right now, and she says, yeah, it's all good.
He just saw his mother burnt to a crisp. I think I can manage.
Audrey tries her best to get Alien Guy to save Haven from the fake aliens, but he's not really down for that. Nathan realizes that the only way to save Haven from the fake but also kind of real aliens is to get Alien Guy to volunteer himself to be abducted by the aliens. That's the conclusion that Nathan's come to, which is a fun one. Alien Guy does this and gets abducted and then all of the aliens leave. Where do they go? Don't know what's happened there. Duke is not happy about Nathan's method.
Convincing him to crawl up his own ass.
Duke kind of roasts him a little bit for that one. Nathan bites back though and then heads over to Audrey.
You can tell the world you're not like your father. When the chips are down, you are what you are.
He's like, I don't have time for this, actually. It's whatever. He got abducted by fake aliens. Audrey tells Nathan that the psycho knew that she was Lucy in the past and told her that she knew the Colorado kid when she was Lucy and that the Colorado kid is still alive. So she fills him in on that.
That guy knew that I was Lucy, the Colorado kid. He's still alive.
It's a lot of info. It's a lot of info for me, a lot of info for him. Nathan is understandably concerned about her right now. We all are. Vince and Dave show up and get instantly roasted by Audrey.
So don't just stand there and act like you're clueless.
It's good to see that she's back in her roasting behaviour this season. Audrey asks Vince and Dave about the Colorado kid and they claim to know nothing.
Was Lucy Ripley in love with the Colorado kid?
We don't know.
Except where he was buried, which was Plot 301. Episode title double meaning, cute. Vince and Dave remark that whoever abducted Audrey knows a lot about Haven. It's a little bit frightening. The next day, the whole gang is digging up the Colorado kid. It's a fun group activity. Dwight warns Nathan to watch what he's doing now that he has the death tattoo. He's like, be careful with that, buddy. That ink might mean more than what you think it does. Audrey is on the phone with Frank, the medical examiner. Frank says that Rosalind was dead hours before she ever talked to Audrey, which is impossible, obviously, but he's like, that's the sitch with that. She was dead. She could not have been speaking to you. Eventually, we get the Colorado kid's casket open and it's empty. He's not in there. There's no body. There is, however, a note written inside of it. It says, find him before the hunter. That's good. Even better, Audrey recognises the handwriting as her own. Lucy. That's probably what's happened. She's written, find him before the hunter, for Audrey to read. And try and find him before the hunter, I guess. End of episode 1. What a solid start. Episode 2 is Stay, and it opens up with a guy working at a truck stop when a naked guy enters and starts screaming at him. At Audrey's loft, her and Duke are talking about the note from the coffin, about finding the hunter, and how she supposedly loved the Colorado kid.
He said I loved the Colorado kid.
That revelation they're discussing. They hear someone coming and they're a little bit on edge, given recent events, but it's just Nathan, so it's okay. Duke is changing the locks to Audrey's apartment, which is a great idea. Thank you, Duke. But Nathan is all like, well, what if you're the hunter? And Lucy was warning Audrey about you because of the whole feud that the Crockers and the Audreys have. So Nathan orders Duke to stay away from Audrey, but Duke's like, no, actually, I'm going to help Audrey.
I'm gonna actually do something to help Audrey.
Nathan and Audrey arrive at the truck stop because they're back to being our favourite Haven police detectives. Audrey sees that the crazy naked guy looks like he's been chained up, which is a lot. She then offers him Nathan's coat.
Give me your coat.
Nathan doesn't love it.
I don't think that's a good idea, Parker.
I love him. The truck stop worker then suddenly runs at Crazy Naked Guy out of nowhere, because that seems like a good idea apparently. And then Crazy Naked Guy attacks truck stop worker and bites his neck out. It's giving Rick Grimes. Duke and Dwight have a fun little quirky chat. Their dynamic is so fun. At the station again now, for the first time this season I think, Dr. Callahan is someone that explains that she is going to be Audrey's psychiatrist.
Here for you. Why?
Audrey's not keen on that.
I'm not gonna talk to you.
Audrey introduces Dr. Callahan to Nathan and says, I'm all good.
We needed to talk. We did. And I feel much better.
I don't need her help. I'm fine. Nathan disagrees with Audrey on that.
It might not be such a bad idea. You did give my coat to a zombie and you almost let Duke stab me this
We're
morning.
gonna talk about this in the car.
I've missed them. I love them. Later, Nathan and Audrey arrive at a random guy's house who has spotted Crazy Naked Guy, and they follow him into a shed and find a bunch of other crazy naked people hiding out in there. Now the naked people are clothing themselves and snarling at each other. I'm going to continue to call them naked people as well, even though they have clothes now. Nathan, Audrey, and the child hide from the naked people in the barn because they seem a little bit scary. There's one naked guy hiding with Audrey and the child, and he doesn't seem too angry or scary at the moment. Audrey gives him a cookie. Nathan tases a particularly cranky naked guy, and then everyone runs off. I'll call the naked guy with Audrey Cookie. Vince and Dave discuss Rosalind's autopsy and talk about how she died of a bolt gun
Bolt gun?
shot to the back of the head. Bolt guns are going to be really relevant this season.
It shoots a bolt. It's made for killing livestock.
Look forward to it. At the station, Audrey offers Cookie another cookie. Dr. Callahan tries again to kind of therapy Audrey. She's still not interested. Then Dr. Callahan says that she's just going to shadow Audrey at work. She's like, I'm tagging along whether you like it or not because you need help. Duke gets some of Naked Guy's blood on him and freaks out a little bit, expecting it to be troubled blood and to set him off with his silver eye superhuman strength thing. He doesn't get set off though, so he gets really excited and thinks that he's been suddenly cured of his curse.
Yes! Thank you! You can meet the troubles?
But it actually just means that the naked people aren't the troubled ones.
Maybe he's not troubled.
What?
It's someone else's trouble. Duke's upset because he thought he was randomly cured. Poor guy. We discover that the naked people have drugs in their system that are used on dogs, and then Audrey deduces that the naked people are dogs that have been turned into humans by someone's trouble. So we find out that the father of the kid from the shed full of naked people dropped their dog off at the pound to be put down recently. Back at the Herald though, really quick, Duke discovers that the hunter from Audrey's note, or Lucy's note I guess, is a meteor storm. That's what the hunter is. Sure, that'll be fine. Back with the trouble though, the kid's father finds out that his trouble is that when he tries to kill an animal, it turns into a person. It's a weird one, but that's what it is. So the dog that he left at the pound to be put down, which is now a human, has taken his son and run into the woods with him. Dr. Callahan is still tagging along. Her name is also Claire. We love Claire. She explains that she's mostly a psychiatrist in Haven for troubled people.
Look, my clients aren't normal.
Which is a cool detail to think about because on a scale of who needs therapy, I think troubled people are pretty high up. The naked people dog trouble gets solved and all of the naked people turn back into dogs. They find the kid in the woods with the help of Cookie, who is now a dog again, and his name is still Cookie. Claire is really impressed by Audrey and even more convinced that she needs therapy now. Audrey says she's going to keep Cookie. Nathan is giving some absolutely adorable love to Cookie and I love him. Claire spots this adorable behaviour and points out to Audrey that she should deal with her relationship with Nathan because that kind of got put on pause because of last episode, basically, and we haven't dealt with it since then. Audrey arrives back home at the Gull, where Duke is waiting for her. He explains to her that the hunter is a meteor storm. This meteor storm happens when her past selves disappear.
The Hunter meteor storm is the night that you disappeared both times.
Meteor storm, hunter, disappearance of Audrey.
Where did I go?
You just vanished.
Every 27 years, this hunter meteor storm happens, and when it does, Sarah disappears, Lucy disappears, Audrey disappears. The next hunter meteor storm is in 49 days.
2 months?
49 days.
Nathan then arrives at the Gull to meet up with Audrey and take Cookie on a pre-organised walk together. After getting the news that she's probably going to disappear in a couple months, Audrey gives Cookie to the kid from earlier instead, because she thinks that she's a goner, so she can't really look after and get attached to a dog. Nathan is confused as to why she's suddenly given up Cookie,
I thought you wanted a dog.
and Audrey doesn't tell him about the hunter or what's going on there. So not a great outlook for Audrey this season. So we've got our little time crunch now. The stakes are high. Season 3, it's a lot happening. Episode 3 is The Farmer, and oh dear, it's intense. It's a good one. It opens with a couple running in the woods. One of them is then found missing their lungs. Well, not missing, they seem to be out on the ground next to them. Duke arrives at Audrey's loft offering alcohol. Can always count on Duke for that. She insists that she wants to work though. She's like, no, I'm going to keep doing my job. I'm not going to dwell on the impending disappearance thing. Duke encourages her to just enjoy herself before the hunter comes though, and then he realizes that Audrey has not told Nathan about it. Audrey is clearly shutting down the emotions and she's trying not to dwell on the whole I'm going to disappear from existence pretty soon thing. She's trying not to deal with that. Audrey arrives at the crime scene and Nathan is bearing coffee.
Good morning.
I love him. Frank the coroner reveals that the victim's lungs have come out of his mouth.
He expelled his lungs through his mouth?
Somehow. A random guy suspiciously takes a photo of the crime scene, so we'll put a pin in that. Back at the station, Nathan tells Audrey that he's bought tickets for the two of them to go to a murder mystery show.
If anybody has a shot at figuring it out, Yes.
Oh my god, I love Nathan. That is so sweet. But then he says that it's not for a couple months, which is an issue for Audrey, who's gonna disappear before then. So now she is kind of forced to tell him about the hunter.
Comes every 27 years. Apparently I just vanish.
Nathan starts to panic about it, and Audrey calms him down and just says it's in 46 days and then she's gone. They can't do anything about it. Our coroner arrives again and says that the lungs found on the ground don't belong to the victim. So it's somebody else's lungs. The victim's still missing their lungs, but it's someone else's lungs that were next to them. The guy that was taking the sneaky pic at the crime scene earlier has now snuck into the station and interrogated a witness. Nathan and Audrey arrive at another crime scene and he's there too. He then explains that he's a cop and his name is Tommy. He's great. We love Tommy. He provides some great humour and a new personality to the show. The new crime scene has a new victim missing their kidneys now, and there's a girl upstairs who's looking quite ill as well. Claire tries to dig a little bit about the change in dynamic between Nathan and Audrey.
Things have changed. Interesting.
I think she's as much of an Audrey shipper as I am. Duke tries to convince Audrey to not just accept her fate,
Just blindly accept what's supposed to happen to you.
which he's trying to do.
Killing people, ending their family's troubles.
Audrey doesn't think that she can, given the history with Sarah and Lucy. It's not looking great for her. Sick girl from the crime scene starts acting really strange at the police station. Nathan and Audrey discuss Tommy and the implications of having an outsider cop in town, and they have a cute little moment.
You ever had outside cops poking around Haven's troubles before?
Sometimes we keep them.
Audrey doesn't really enjoy it though, which is upsetting. Then they question him and it's good fun. They reluctantly agree to all start working together on the case. Sick girl, who was acting strange, now attacks someone at the station. Then all of her organs start failing. Audrey and Nathan start to dissect what this trouble could mean,
Hunting family members to harvest their organs?
and it's not great.
If the victim gets away like Zoe did, then their trouble is triggered.
And they need new organs.
A couple of the victims were conceived via sperm donor, so the 3 detectives hit up Haven's fertility clinic.
Fertility clinic in this little town? We even got a few traffic lights too.
The theory is currently that someone from the clinic has purposefully fathered a bunch of kids by donating his sperm and making sure that it was used a whole lot. Once again, Nathan and Audrey discuss the super scary implications of this trouble if it continues.
Harvesting the organs of their relatives. We've got to break this cycle.
It's a bad one. Duke shows up because Audrey's asked him for his help. Nathan is really sus as to why she's done that, but Audrey shuts him down and just heads off with Duke. We see a random guy approach a teenager, and then Duke and Audrey show up just as this guy starts attacking this young girl with an organ-sucking tongue. It's a tongue that can suck out organs. Duke and Audrey stop him from doing that, but now the girl's organs are going to start failing, and then she's going to have to harvest them from her family next. So that's how this works. If you get attacked but don't have your organs stolen successfully, your trouble gets triggered and then you try to steal organs from your family. It's a real shit show overall. The gang split up to try and track down the organ stealer before he kills one of his kids for their organs. Just a reminder, that's what's happening. They all chase him down into the woods to stop him from stealing his son's organs. But now, because the kid was attacked, the kid's organs are going to start failing, and then the kid's going to have to harvest organs from his family. Suddenly, Audrey tells Nathan to take Tommy out of the woods and leave her and Duke alone with Organ Stealer. Nathan realizes why Audrey's asked Duke for his help on this case, and he doesn't love it. Duke at first doesn't realize what Audrey wants him to do here. When he does realize her plan,
You needed me to kill him.
he's pretty pissed about it. Audrey explains why this sort of needs to happen though.
You can kill his curse before he goes.
Wrong thing for the right reason, I'm afraid, Duke.
All of those kids that would die. I knew that you were the only answer.
Duke feels really betrayed by Audrey and then just walks away. Then we cut to black. We're at the morgue now and Tommy reconciles with what happens in Haven and heads out. He's not going to stick around for that. So our coroner now explains to Nathan and Audrey that a body has shown up with her nose surgically removed and she's been killed by a bolt gun.
Bolt gun, normally used to put down livestock.
Remember I said that that would be kind of relevant? Here it is. Audrey sees that this bolt gun is also what killed Rosalind, so they deduce that Audrey's abductor is still in town and killing people with a bolt gun and slicing off pieces of them.
Whoever abducted you is doing this.
Nathan tries to talk to Audrey. He confronts her for shutting him out. Audrey brings up the death tattoo and snaps at him.
The tattoo that you got just so that you could kill Duke.
We hate to see the domestic, but also it's kind of a really good scene.
See you around the office, Parker.
Later, Audrey admits to Claire that she purposefully pushed Nathan away to protect him. She knows that Lucy loved the Colorado kid, and then he famously died, so she's concerned that that would happen to Nathan.
Not if I don't let it.
So she's shut their relationship down. I don't know if I should keep them on here. I will. Audrey will stay on the board. Will they? Yeah, they're staying, but currently it's not on because Audrey's scared for Nathan's life. Later, Audrey gets a phone call and heads off to the Gull to talk to Duke in somewhat of a hurry. Audrey says to Duke, all of the victims from earlier in the episode suddenly recovered and their organs stopped failing. She asks him what happened back in the woods. Turns out that he headed back towards the organ stealer and killed him, thus ending the trouble and saving everyone in his bloodline from the failing organs and stealing organs cycle. So he has murdered organ stealer, but he's also saved a whole lot of people from organ failure and or theft. He's really struggling with that. I love this scene as well, just really quick. I'm pretty sure Duke doesn't say a single line. Very heavy. It's very good. Back with Tommy, we see that he's at his hotel and someone is breaking in. Then suddenly he's out in the woods and he tells his boss on the phone that he's actually going to stay in Haven, and then he drags a body into the woods and buries it. So Tommy's sticking around. Episode 4 is Over My Head, and it opens with security footage of a guy with Duke's death tattoo killing a woman whose corpse we then see has been scalped. The woman has been killed via bolt gun, which now makes 3 women killed this way. Tommy remarks that the killer might be taking trophies because of the missing nose and now the missing scalp, which is gross. Tommy also clocks the death tattoo on Nathan's arm. Nathan brushes it off because it's all a little bit orkies. Back with Audrey, she's working with Claire trying to unlock some past life memories. That's a fun activity that they're doing. Claire is also trying to get Audrey to talk about the whole Hunter thing and her now fractured relationship with Nathan. She still thinks that it's safer for Nathan for them to just not be involved with each other. Audrey then justifies asking Duke to kill the organ stealer.
Listen, I know what I asked Duke to do wasn't fair.
Audrey's really struggling with the prospect of disappearing soon and not being able to help enough troubled people. Before that happens, it's our girl. Next, we see a woman trying to help a man swim before being attacked by nothing and killed in a pool. Duke shows up at the crime scene. Him and Nathan are not vibing. Nathan wonders if Duke enjoys killing.
When he transforms, he gets a rush. It doesn't mean he's not going to learn to like it.
Which is an unfortunate thing to think about, and also a rude accusation, Nathan. Vince and Dave show up at the station asking Nathan about the serial killer. Nathan puts them in their place.
If you want to get, you're going to have to give.
And then asks them for info about the tattoo that he now has. Now he wants to know more about it after it's permanently on him. He's like, maybe I should look into that. Maybe I should find out more about what the go with that is. So Vince and Dave explain to Nathan that the group of tattooed people are called the Guard.
Call themselves the Guard.
So from now on, instead of calling it the death tattoo, I'm going to call it the Guard tattoo. Vince and Dave tell Nathan where he can find a member of the Guard to question. Her name is Jordan. We'll get into how I feel about Jordan very soon. Claire hands Audrey Lucy's necklace and it unlocks a memory of Lucy discovering the Colorado kid's body. So that's the first time Audrey's had a memory of one of her past lives. So exciting. Nathan reveals that the dead woman from the pool was attacked by a shark in a pool. So this is definitely a trouble. Audrey and Nathan are awkward. They're in an awkward spot right now. Nathan says he's going to work with the new Guard information angle, and Audrey asks him to be careful. Audrey goes to grab his arm really quick, and then we get this really sad
Be careful.
and awkward moment. It upsets me. Duke is waiting for them at the Bronco. Nathan confronts him once again, and they demonstrate how rocky their relationship is right now. We get another dead body, and this guy has drowned while standing up in the shower. There's lots of water phenomenon happening this episode. Audrey mentions that a swim teacher has gone missing, and Nathan and Duke clash some more.
Did you deputize him or something? Hey, good idea, buddy. Don't call me buddy.
Audrey brings Duke to investigate the missing woman, and Nathan heads off to investigate the guard and this mysterious Jordan. Audrey asks Duke why he wants to help with the case, and he avoids answering her. They question the missing swim teacher's neighbour. He starts scratching at himself, and then little bugs swarm all over him, which is gross and not ideal. Next, we see Nathan at the Gun and Rose diner talking to Jordan. Here's where we meet Jordan. Nathan flashes his tattoo and we see that she's got one too. Also, Jordan wears gloves. This is important to note. When questioned, Nathan claims that he got the guard tattoo to show his support for the troubled, which is what Vince and Dave told him the guard stood for. So apparently the guard are all for troubled people. Jordan shuts Nathan down though and says she's not keen on talking to the chief of police. Nathan keeps pushing her though, and then she says, okay fine, you can come back and we can talk after the diner closes that night. Nathan returns to the weird water case and Audrey explains that the only connection is still the missing swim teacher whose name is Daphne. Duke tries to be helpful and this continues to piss off Nathan.
But we did put out an APB.
Really?
They find a suspect from earlier bleeding out. He ran our missing woman's car off of a cliff and didn't report it. So she's currently off of a cliff, trapped in her car. She's also surrounded by all of the elements that have been killing off people in Haven. Duke's missed calls to Daphne while he was trying to track her down have been popping up on her phone and she's been seeing those. So then Duke starts drowning on dry land. Audrey CPRs him a little bit though and he's okay. So Daphne is killing / attacking people who she thinks could save her life with the fears of the possible things that might kill her around her. So she sees a shark, thinks of her swim teacher friend, she gets eaten by a shark in a pool. Audrey has another flashback memory of being Lucy on the beach, and while they're dealing with that, Duke heads down the cliff and Nathan thinks that he's just going to kill Daphne to stop the trouble, but then he uses his silver eye strength moment to free her from the car and save her and not kill her. Yay Duke! No more murder, please. Duke and Audrey have a talk at the hospital. Duke says he doesn't want Audrey to think that he's just going to start murdering people now. That's why he wanted to come along. He wanted to prove he's not a murderer. Duke clarifies that it was his decision to kill the organ stealer and his family legacy doesn't control him and neither does she. So he's standing his ground, he's a strong, independent man. Claire then confronts Duke about his feelings for Audrey. Claire is all about the drama. Nathan is now back at the diner with Jordan. Yay. Nathan opens up about his biological father, Max.
A guy named Max Hansen was.
We haven't heard about him in a minute. He's still relevant. So Max also had the guard tattoo. So Nathan uses that card to try and connect with Jordan. Then he asks her about the glove situation. She explains that no one gets the tattoo unless they're troubled. Jordan's trouble is that whenever you touch her, you get hit with unbearable pain.
One touch and you're doubled over on the floor wishing you'd never been born.
Her trouble is like Nathan's in the sense that you can't turn it off. So she hasn't touched anyone in years. So naturally, our favourite man Nathan grabs Jordan's hand and Jordan's a bit confused before Nathan explains his trouble.
I don't feel anything ever. It's my trouble.
So he's not in pain. So they connect on that a bit. I'm thrilled about it. Nathan says that he can prove to her that the guard can trust him. Jordan says that she'll talk to the guard on his behalf. It's important to note that Nathan is really putting the flirt on with Jordan. It's implied, of course, that he's just doing this to get info about the guard tattoo and the killer that took Audrey and stuff, but it is a lot. Later we see a mystery person pull our victim from earlier's scalp out of a box and starts brushing the hair. Audrey then has a really fun dream about seeing the Colorado kid again, and then a random barn appears. Yep, it's the barn. She wakes up from this dream, and then Agent Howard shows up in her loft and tells her to stop remembering, and then she wakes up again. That was a lot for her. Episode 5 is Double Jeopardy, and it's kind of a weird one. It opens with a super pervy guy taking upskirt pics. I hate it. He goes back to his creepy apartment when he gets attacked by an unseen force. In court, we see Duke finessing his way out of some parking tickets, regular Duke behaviour. He then leaves the courthouse and sees a sexy lady leaning against his truck, and she has popped his tyres and then scrapes up all the paint on the side of his car. Then she disappears. Audrey is catching up with Claire again on her scary Howard dream. They're talking about that. They still want to keep working on getting her past life memories back, though. They're going to keep working on that. Audrey is still a little bit weird about her talks with Claire being therapy. She's a bit in denial about that, but we're getting somewhere at least. Audrey arrives at the pervy guy's apartment, which has been completely torn up. We learn that his eyes have been taken out with a spoon. We love to hear it. Audrey thinks that this might be another trophy from our serial killer, who we officially hear referred to as the bolt gun killer for the first time.
This could be the bolt gun killer.
So yeah, that's his name. The serial killer is the bolt gun killer. Nathan shuts down this theory though, because it's more likely that someone just gave pervy guy what he had coming to him. Nathan calms down Audrey's bolt gun killer panic a little bit by letting her know that he's getting in with the guard, so he's working on things. At the Gull, Duke is shuffling people out for the night when Sexy Lady shows up again. She starts to magically transport herself around and throws Duke across the bar. She's got anger issues. The next day, Duke updates Audrey and Nathan about how Sexy Lady has been attacking him. Audrey tells Duke about her recent victim with the eye spooning out, and she says that Duke should stick around with Nathan and Audrey so that he doesn't get attacked again. We make the connection that this woman is attacking people for their crimes. Audrey says that Duke should stay with her at her loft that night for protection. Nathan clarifies to Duke that he's just bait.
She's using you as bait, right?
Sorry, buddy. Duke staying at Audrey's gives us some really great moments between the two of them. Their relationship is really complicated. Especially with recent events, it's getting really interesting to watch their dynamic and watch how they develop together, and they'll continue to as the season progresses. I do love them. Back at the diner with Jordan, Nathan shows up to visit again. They talk about their similarities. Then Jordan says that the guard has a job for him so that he can prove his loyalty to them. It's very culty. This task is organising a prisoner transfer. Semantics don't matter. Back at the loft, Audrey and Duke are giving sleepover vibes. It's very cute. They dissect the craziness of Audrey's current situation, and Duke talks about fighting their fates. Duke gets real sweet to Audrey, but she passes out on the couch before she can hear all of his sentiments.
One good thing about the Troubles, at least I got to meet Audrey Parker.
Bless their souls. Unsurprisingly, Sexy Lady shows up out of nowhere and we discover that she's made of rock or something. She reappears and throws everyone around. Then she disappears again. What a fun gal. Nathan and Audrey have a weird moment at the station, which is common for the two of them at the moment, I guess. At the courthouse, Duke is worried that if Sexy Lady is attacking people for their crimes, then she's not gonna love that he killed a guy a couple episodes ago. Then he realizes that the sketch of her looks like the courthouse mural of Lady Justice. Audrey questions Nathan about helping the guard with the prisoner transfer. Transfer? What's a transfer? Audrey questions Nathan a little bit about helping with the prisoner transfer. Audrey says that he doesn't have to keep doing this just to help find her abductor if he doesn't want to, and then he lies and says that it's not about her. Nathan lets Jordan know that he's organised the prisoner transfer, so it's going to happen, but then he catches her in a lie and she's being really sus. Audrey and Duke realise that the person creating Sexy Lady Justice, bringing her to life out of the mural, is a woman that works at the courthouse. Back with the prisoner transfer, we see Jordan use her trouble to take out the cops and release the prisoner for the guard. Rude. Nathan then saves her from getting shot, which he didn't have to do, if you ask me. I'm a Jordan hater. That's just going to become so clear as we keep going. I'm sorry. I don't love Jordan. I don't. Audrey and Duke confront the woman that's creating Sexy Lady Justice. Duke uses himself as bait again. Audrey vouches for him and his actions.
Despite his fate, he is a good man.
The woman from the courthouse realizes that she's responsible for the attacks on people, so then she turns Sexy Lady Justice on to herself for her actions, and then they both merge back into the courthouse mural. And that's how that trouble gets solved. Audrey and Duke try to make light of the drama back in the station. They continue to share sweet, wholesome vibes together, and it's great. Nathan shows up and Audrey tells him that she's going to try and do a facial composite of the Colorado kid from her Lucy memories to try and figure out who he is, or who he was. But we think he's alive, so who he is. Then Nathan straight up lies about the prisoner transfer fiasco. Hate to see it. He heads back to the Gun and Rose diner once again to confront Jordan about her rude behaviour. Jordan says that the prisoner is troubled and needed to be freed in order for the guard to help him deal with his trouble. Nathan says that she should have just been honest with him. Then he gets really intimate with her and they make out. Unfortunately, once again, hate to see it. I do love that afterwards he just gets up and leaves without a word. That's icon behaviour, thank you, Nathan. At the station, Audrey and Claire are working on the Colorado Kid facial composite. Audrey finds out about another woman that has been killed who had her chin chopped off. Sliced off, so bolt gun, murdered, and then a piece of their face chopped off. Isn't this a fun season? So this revelation of another victim with another piece of face chopped off causes Audrey to have this really gross revelation.
What if he's building a woman?
Very terrifying, very gross, good drama. Then we get another little sneak peek of the serial killer being super awful and scary. Episode 6 is Real Estate, and it is so fun. There's actually a whole featurette / little mini documentary on the making of this episode that's on the season 3 DVD, and I think you can also find it on YouTube if you look. I highly recommend watching it if you're a fan of the show. It's so fun. Not only is it super interesting to see all the work that goes into making like one individual episode of television, it's also just heaps of fun and hilarious. This episode is also directed by Jason Priestley, aka Chris Brody. He's back, but not really. He's not back in the show, but Jason Priestley's here directing an episode. We open on a scary looking haunted house and 2 teens are dressed up in Halloween costumes and they're heading inside. Scary ghost stuff starts happening and the teen girl runs away. At the Herald, they're having a Halloween party and Duke and Audrey are just chilling. They're not dressed up, which is disappointing.
I'm a vampire slayer.
I love Claire. Audrey has finished her facial composite of the Colorado Kid, so we get our first look at who he is, which is really cool. Claire is suddenly a lot less keen on Audrey continuing to access past life memories. She says it could start to get really dangerous for Audrey, but I think that shit might have sailed, babe. The scared teen girl from the haunted house earlier arrives at the Herald. Audrey says that her, Duke, and Claire will head up to the house to find the teen boy that she was with, and Nathan can stay at the station. Jordan then shows up to the station to see Nathan, and he hides the bulk gun killer police board that he has. Jordan says that the guard are now keen on Nathan being a part of their crew, and she's also keen on him too. Apologies if the framing looks different now. We had some technical difficulties. I'm gonna blame Jordan for that. I think that her energy screwed up my SD card. Anyway, she's here because of the unfortunate makeout. So that happened. So she's on Nathan's tree. Back at our haunted house, which from the documentary was actually apparently haunted.
The house is haunted. And,
What house is haunted? The haunted house is haunted.
Which is hilarious. It makes for some really great shenanigans in that documentary. Again, highly recommend it.
From the evil spirit. From the evil spirit.
Duke refers to this house as the Holloway house because the Holloway family disappeared from the house a while ago. I'm sure that won't be important. Nathan and Jordan are now drinking at a cemetery, which is really weird and something that they continue to do. Jordan questions Nathan's relationship with Audrey and he says it's not a big deal, don't worry about it. So she's like, okay, let's hook up again. Then Nathan gets a weird call from Audrey, so he heads off to go help her out. Jordan is upset by this. Sorry, girl. The gang at the Holloway house are still looking for the teen boy when Audrey passes out and has a really fun Lucy memory again. In this Lucy memory, she is Lucy in the Holloway house. So Lucy spent some time there too. Audrey brushes off the whole sudden passing out situation to Duke. They have an awkward, tension-filled moment, which is fun. Then they find the body of the teenage boy crammed into the wall of the house. Happy Halloween! Tommy, Claire, and the teen girl show up now too, and the house gets the shakes out of nowhere. Then everyone realizes that the front door has disappeared and all the windows close themselves. Tommy tries to insert logic into the situation, but Duke brings him back to Haven and it's reality.
A ghost just removed the front door.
So there's no logic to be had.
Merman, aliens, Dracula.
I'm not sure about Dracula.
The gang all split up to search for the teen girl. Audrey asks Claire about the passing out memory situation, and she gives us some foreshadowing.
And some doors, once they're open, can't be closed.
Then Nathan shows up at the house and we realize that the door that he came through has also disappeared. So everyone's getting trapped in the house. Vince and Dave are wondering where everyone's disappearing to. They ask Stan if he knows where everyone headed off to. And I'm pretty sure Stan is still just dressed up as a cop for Halloween. Like it's a costume, but it's a cop costume. I love Stan. Stan tells Vince and Dave that everyone's gone to the Holloway house and they are not delighted to hear it. There's some scary history with the house. The gang hear the teen girl scream and find her hanging from a chandelier, and Jordan is standing beneath her. Tommy then tries to grab Jordan and he is floored by her trouble, her pain-inducing touch. The whole gang really is here now, including Jordan, unfortunately. Everyone is really sus of Jordan, but then Nathan grabs her hand because he's numb and isn't affected by her trouble, and it's just weird vibes all around. Vince and Dave are bringing Dwight to the Holloway house, but the house is not happy and it won't let them in. Nathan fills Jordan in on the bolt gun killer having the guard tattoo thing. Then the house activates some intercom things on the walls so that others in the group can hear it, because the house is deciding to start some drama. Jordan slaps Nathan, which is rude, and then she disappears. Claire and Audrey talk about Nathan a little bit before Audrey uses her Lucy memory from earlier to unlock a secret room in the house. So the Holloway mother and daughter, their skeletons are inside the secret room. Audrey passes out again and has another Lucy memory. The Lucy wig is mildly uncanny, not as bad as season 2 Sarah, so that's nice. Everything is held to that standard and the Lucy wig is nothing, so it's fine. Audrey remembers being in the house, the Holloway house, with the Colorado kid. So they were there together for some reason. Then Audrey gets a nosebleed and is clearly in pain after having this Lucy memory. So it's not doing good things for her health. Nathan shows up to Claire and Audrey and asks where Jordan is. Claire feels us in on how dangerous Jordan could really be.
Tortured him with her touch for 3 days.
Nathan defends her though, and I'm still not happy about it. Duke fills Audrey in on the tea that he overheard with Nathan and Jordan through the intercom that the house decided to clue them in on.
He's actually in with the tattoo people. Okay, he's not pretending anymore.
Audrey is adamant that he's just with her for the case, and it's not a real relationship. Then she gets separated from the group. This house is so dramatic, I love it. I also kind of love that it knocks Jordan down a flight of stairs. I'm sorry, Jordan. I want to be clear, she's great in the story of the season. She does a great job. I just don't like her. Sorry, babe. The house tries to trick Audrey with the receipts on Nathan and Jordan's conversation, but she's not falling for it. Then Ian Glenn shows up, which is super fun and random. Hi, Jorah from Game of Thrones. How are you? So he is the Holloway husband / father. He's also haunting / embodying the house.
I am this house.
It's giving Monster House. The rest of the gang finally discover that Jordan has collapsed down the stairs, so Nathan picks her up and actually cares about her, but everyone else doesn't really give a shit. Holloway explains that he became the house after working on it obsessively. He trapped his family inside the house, which is awful and scary. He remembers Audrey from when she was Lucy, so he recalls her 27 years ago as a different person. He thinks that the death of his family is Lucy's fault. Back outside, Dwight, Vince and Dave are trying to break into the house. They decide that they're gonna just explode it open, which feels like not a great idea. Audrey wants to cause another flashback to figure out how to get out of the house. So based on whatever Lucy did in the past to get out, Audrey's like, well, we'll just do that again and get out. Audrey passes out yet again, and she remembers what Lucy and the Colorado kid did to get out of the house. She also remembers calling the Colorado kid James, so that's his name. Elsewhere in the house, people start pointing weapons, tensions are high, it's not looking great. Tommy and Audrey arrive and tell everyone what's going on. They all start shooting the mirrors and the intercoms in the house so that Holloway can't see or hear what they're doing. Doors start reopening and stuff. Nathan slays a solo hero moment and does a dramatic jump situation, which is really fun for him, and they all escape the Holloway house. The bomb Vince, Dave, and Dwight were going to use to break into the house actually comes in handy, and Audrey roasts the house before it blows up. Very cool stuff. At the station, we find out that the Colorado kid's full name is James Cogan. So that's his name. The Colorado kid has a name. Audrey and Nathan discuss the Jordan situation, which is awkward. Things get a little bit heated and Nathan defends Jordan once again.
It's not black and white, good and bad.
Things are just as awkward and distant between the two of them as ever, and I hate it. These two are so emotionally repressive in these moments, drives me insane. Talk about your feelings. Next, we see Nathan meet up with Jordan, once again at the cemetery for some reason. Jordan says that Nathan can back out of helping the guard if he wants, and Nathan says, no, I'm gonna keep working with you guys. Nathan says that their relationship is not a lie, and they have another little makeout sesh. It's so obvious that Nathan is avoiding his feelings for Audrey by doing this little dance with Jordan. I appreciate it for the character's journey, but I'm still allowed to hate it. Okay? Episode 7 is Magic Hour Part 1, and that's right, I did in fact say Part 1. This is Haven's first two-parter episode, and I love it. It's also the first of 2 appearances of Emily's Uncharted co-stars being featured in Haven. Claudia Black is here for this two-parter, who was Chloe in the Uncharted series. It is so cool that she came on the show. It's really fun. If it's not obvious, I'm a huge fan of the Uncharted games, so these appearances on the show are so incredibly enjoyable to watch for me. I love it. Alright, let's get into it. We open with a couple standing over their daughter's corpse, waiting for the sun to set for some reason. It's very strange and sad. Then the daughter's corpse disappears and she's seen chilling on a swing. She's very much alive now, which is so much fun. At the station, Audrey's heading on a trip to Colorado to track down James Cogan, who, as we just found out, is the Colorado kid. She wants to find his family at least, because she's got an address for them, to find out more about his relationship with Lucy. She's currently filling in Nathan on that sitch and her plan to go find out more about that. They're feeling hopeful about what finding James could mean for the hunter and the disappearance situation. Maybe they can do something about that. Duke shows up and makes it clear that he's coming with Audrey to Colorado. Nathan isn't happy that Audrey's spending some of her possible last days with Duke. He sulks a little bit about it and I hate to see it. Back with the family from the cold open, the woman gets hit by a car and instantly dies. It's a rough time for this family. Nathan shows up at the scene and meets Tommy there. They see the husband take a really sus phone call. Jordan is snooping around the station when Nathan arrives. He's all touchy-feely with her and I'm not a fan, as we know. Jordan says her friend from the guard has gone missing around the time that the bolt gun killer started to kill people and slice off their faces. Nathan shows her the security footage and she recognizes the killer as her missing friend from the guard. Jordan wants to track down this guy herself because they're friends. Guess she wants to talk to him about it, but she currently thinks that he's a serial killer, so I don't know what having a chat is gonna do. In Colorado, Duke and Audrey arrive at the Cogan's house. A guy opens the door claiming to not know who the Cogans are or what that situation is. Before they leave, thinking that this is a dead end, they see the guard symbol at the door and then Duke gets understandably hostile about it. The guy then finally says that June Cogan has been moved to a home. At the morgue, Nathan and Tommy try to handle the husband, who is waiting for his wife's body to reanimate, and he's also wielding a scalpel. The wife does in fact wake up from death inside of a body bag, which feels like a horrible experience. Nathan and Tommy are a little bit confused about the whole resurrection thing. They question the husband and find out that a troubled person blackmailed him for money in order for his wife to be brought back to life. That's quite a money-making scheme. Jordan and Dwight are looking for the missing guard, possible bolt gun killer guy. They're working together. It's an interesting duo. Back in Colorado, Audrey and Duke visit the old folks' home to see June Cogan. They quickly discover that June is in fact having a cheeky little dementia moment, and she still thinks that James is alive and 8 years old. She's kind of stuck back in that period of time. Then she recognizes Audrey but calls her Sarah and says that she liked her red hair better.
You were so pretty as a redhead.
June also says that Sarah told her that she was never coming back and she's really upset that she has returned because she thinks that Sarah's come back and she apparently promised that she wouldn't do that.
You said you'd never come back.
Tommy and Nathan discover that there's another woman in town waiting for her husband to come back to life. because she's also paid someone to bring him back. Audrey calls Nathan from Colorado and says she's going to need more time there to figure out what's going on. There's a bit of tension on the phone between the two of them, which is unfortunately regular behavior for them right now. Nathan flippantly describes the case that they're dealing with.
There's a troubled person murdering rich people and resurrecting them at sundown for ransom money.
Duke calls Nathan Officer Grumpy, which I love. Then Duke and Audrey get caught in the "there's only one room left at the inn" trope. I wonder how that'll go. I'm sure that won't create any really iconic moments between the two of them. But for now, they just talk about the whole past life Sarah Lucy situation and the connection with that to the Cogan family, James Cogan, and the Colorado kid. It's a lot. Duke swiped a family photo album from June Cogan when they were visiting her. They flip through it a little bit and kind of discover more about James and his life. They find a wedding photo with James.
Colorado kid got married.
And then they read the name of the woman that he married, who is Arla Cogan. So James got married to a woman named Arla. Audrey's feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all of the revelations going on.
Where does Lucy fit in, or Sarah for that matter?
Duke says it's going to be okay. Let's just take this one past life at a time. Tommy and Nathan discover that both of the families that were blackmailed for the resurrection situation had a housekeeper in common. Her name is Moira. Then we see a paramedic asking where her sister is. Her sister arrives, and it's our blackmailer Moira. Moira is of course played by Claudia Black, who is now sporting an American accent.
We have to leave town.
Which was a little bit jarring for me at first.
Let's go save your bloody world.
Moira's sister is the paramedic, and her name is Noelle, and she's the one who is troubled and can resurrect people. So Moira, the brains behind the business, the one blackmailing people, and then Noelle is the one that can actually resurrect them. Moira shoots Noelle's boyfriend in the face, which is a crazy thing to do. Noelle then rushes over to him and touches him and brings him back to life. While doing so, she seems to experience the gunshot wound as well, which is a bit traumatic for her. Tommy and Nathan arrive at the scene and the sisters have fled. Tommy and Nathan break down the operation a little bit. They kind of explain it as simply as possible.
Noel's a paramedic. Easy for her to lay hands on a dead body.
So Moira's the one with the brains, Noelle's the one with the trouble.
Nathan hears from Laverne, who tells the two of them that the sisters are probably at a cabin. Moira seems really annoyed at Noelle right now because apparently with her trouble, she can only resurrect one person per day.
We would be further ahead if you could absorb more than one death a day.
Which still feels like a pretty solid effort. I think we should calm down Moira. The two sisters spar and drop a bunch of exposition about their family and their past. Because the performances from both of the actors is so great, it's actually really engaging to watch the exposition drop, and it's not a bore to sit through. So yay for that. Moira mentions that Noelle didn't save their father with her trouble back when they were kids. Moira is very clearly all about the money and exploiting her little sister's trouble to get it. Back in Colorado, Duke and Audrey are sipping beers and discussing the craziness of Audrey's life and past lives as well. The whole sitch.
Not one, but two past lives.
They're looking pretty cozy with each other right now, I'll be honest. Audrey is clearly a little bit tipsy, which we've never seen before. She talks to Duke about all of the things she's missed out on during her limited time, or the experiences that she hasn't had. She feels a little bit of regret about wasting some of her time in Haven. Audrey then says that she's got 20 days left to live her life.
20 days left. I want to live my life.
And Duke says that he's down to do whatever she wants to do during those 20 days. Audrey gets really sincere with Duke.
You're here. You just left everything.
And then Duke says this.
I hunt down your past, find your future.
And then Audrey says this.
And a future. Thank God it is not here yet.
And then this happens. It's a moment. It's such like a tension release for the two of them and their relationship. The development between the two of them has been built up to such a great point, and it's really fun that their storyline has dipped into this dynamic. Their chemistry really is great, but it's so different to Nathan and Audrey, and I really like that there's such a separation between the two relationships. It really steams up and feels like it's gonna go somewhere. Audrey pulls back though, and then gets super candid about how she feels really awkward about the situation.
20 days, that's not long enough for me to fix our friendship if I
screw this up, so.
Which is so refreshing for this kind of moment in a TV show, because normally they don't address it. This moment is so pivotal for their relationship, and it continues to have repercussions for literally the rest of the series. From now on, I'll call it the Colorado incident. The next morning, the two of them meet up at the car, and it's a little bit awkward, but it's very cute. Their platonic dynamic hasn't changed at all though, which is such a relief. Duke makes a very Duke comment.
What are you looking at?
I'm just imagining you as a redhead. Thought.
But it gives Audrey an idea. Back in Haven, Tommy and Nathan are searching the cabins looking for Moira and Noelle. Dwight calls Nathan and says they found the missing guard guy. Him and Jordan found him. So we really thought that he was the bolt gun killer, but he's actually super dead, so it's not him. Apparently, a cop from Haven might have killed him. There's some info about that, but that's really all you need to know. They think that a cop from Haven might have killed this guard guy. Back with Moira and Noelle, Moira continues to be an absolute asshole of a sister. Audrey goes back to June at the home, and she's wearing a red wig that is very wiggy, but it's somehow better than this one from season 2. That was supposed to be taken seriously. I'm sorry that I don't stop talking about it. I can't let you forget that it happened. So now that Audrey has a red wig on, June immediately thinks that she's Sarah. June drops the absolutely colossal bomb that James Cogan, the Colorado kid, is Sarah's son.
James Cogan is my son.
Sarah gave up James to the Cogans before she disappeared.
I know it must have hurt to give him up, Sarah. I can protect your baby.
So yes, this basically means that Audrey has a son who grew up to be James Cogan, the Colorado kid. It is so incredibly wild to find out this information. I remember my mind being absolutely blown by this revelation. My little 12-year-old brain, crazy stuff. I'll update everyone's trees after this episode, don't worry. Audrey and Duke make it back to Haven finally. Duke asks Audrey how she's feeling about the whole "you've got a son" kind of thing.
I don't even know how to begin to process that information.
Nathan then calls Audrey for help on the Moira and Noelle case.
The one who brings people back from the dead?
Nathan searches Tommy's car for the coordinates to give Audrey so she can find them. He finds some past GPS coordinates that lead back to the dead guard guy. This is unsettling news for Nathan because now it means that Tommy is a suspect for being the bolt gun killer. Nathan and Tommy arrive at another cabin to search, and they do in fact find Noelle there. Nathan asks her where Moira is because clearly Moira is the criminal in this situation. Noelle won't give up her sister though. Nathan then checks Tommy's boot, his trunk, for anything sus. And yes, he finds a bolt gun. So mission successful. That's definitely sus. Tommy then catches Nathan finding this bolt gun in his car, which then causes him to do something absolutely atrocious. Tommy shoots Nathan multiple times, killing him. Tommy kills Nathan. Now, when I tell you that I was absolutely distraught in this moment, oh my god. Noelle starts to run away from the scene and Tommy shoots at her. Duke and Audrey arrive at the scene and see the very much dead Nathan. Tommy says that Noelle shot him. Audrey and Duke are about as speechless as I was in this moment. Then we get a to be continued. Rude behaviour. I had to wait a whole last week for the next episode. Absolutely horrific time for the girlies right here. Okay, I've updated our tree situation. Duke is on Audrey's tree as a romantic interest. I have clarified that it's just Colorado related. That's that. Also, I struggled to articulate the James Cogan being Sarah/Audrey's son thing. It will get better later on. I can't tell you why yet. Sarah's son, and then obviously by proxy, because they're the same person, Audrey's son. We have reflected the Colorado incident on Duke's tree also. There you go. Moving on ASAP to Magic Hour Part 2, Episode 8. We are back in the absolute trenches with dead Nathan. Duke is super sus on Tommy, and Audrey is just shut down completely, and she asks where the girl who can bring people back to life has gone.
Where is she, Tommy?
because she could be really helpful with the dead Nathan situation. Audrey runs after Noelle to obviously try and get her to save Nathan, and it's an absolutely traumatic situation for everyone involved. I hate it. So the way Noelle's trouble works, I don't know if I've said this, is that she has to touch the person before sunset in order for them to come back. Is that a plane? This is important because the sun is going to set in 2 hours, so they only have 2 hours to find Noelle, get her to touch Nathan in order for him to come back to life. This is so rough. Vince and Dave give us a break from the trauma and reveal that they already knew that James was Sarah's son. They already knew that, which, yeah, if they knew Sarah, then they would have been around her when she was super pregnant. Anyway, Duke, Audrey, and Tommy track down Noelle's boyfriend, and Tommy tries to sabotage the situation so that Nathan can't be brought back and tell everyone that Tommy is the bolt gun killer. Tommy, I swear to God, the gang catches up with the boyfriend, but then Tommy finds Noelle first before everyone else, and he kills her, and therefore our chance to bring back Nathan. I am distraught. Audrey has now put both dead Nathan and dead Noelle in the boot of her car and is grasping at possibilities to bring Nathan back. This is the energy that we need. Thank you, Audrey. Audrey says that she's going to activate Moira's trouble so that Moira can bring Nathan back.
If Noelle can bring people back from the dead, so can her sister.
Because troubles run in families, so if Moira's trouble gets activated, then she'll be able to resurrect people too. Therefore, we can bring Nathan back. So I'm on board with this plan. Next, we get a kind of jarring shot of shirtless Dwight. Wasn't ready for it. So Dwight is burying the missing guard guy, who we thought was the bolt gun killer but wasn't, and was actually dead. So Dwight's burying him. Dwight turns around and our bullet magnet baddie has a huge guard tattoo covering his entire back. It's giving Jax Teller. It's a lot. We don't have time to dive into it though. Audrey answers dead Nathan's phone and it's Jordan calling him. She doesn't tell her that Nathan is currently not alive. Vince and Dave discover that a key to their fishing shack that they have has been stolen. Someone stole the key to their fishing shack. It's weird, it's important, we'll talk about it later. Audrey finds Moira and starts shooting at her, but once again, it is effective because we've got no time for bullshit and Moira needs to chill out and stop running. We need you, babe. And Moira tells Audrey that Tommy shot and killed Nathan.
What did he say?
You're the bolt gun killer.
Thank you, Moira, for sharing this info. Audrey calls Duke immediately and tells him that Tommy is the bolt gun killer and Tommy killed Nathan. But Duke has to act chill. Tommy gets a little bit sus on Duke though, and it's looking a little bit scary for our boy for a minute here. Jordan shows up after tracking Nathan's phone. Creepy behavior. Audrey then shows her Nathan's current state.
He's been shot.
Audrey tells Jordan her plan to bring him back, and Jordan points out that activating Moira's trouble is going to take some trauma.
Usually takes some kind of emotional trauma to do that.
Because that's how it works. You need to be kind of traumatized for your trouble to get triggered. And so Audrey says this.
What are you gonna do? Traumatize him.
Audrey's not playing games when it comes to bringing back our boy Nathan. We both love him. Audrey shows Moira her sister's corpse in an attempt to traumatize her and trigger her trouble. Because Moira is an asshole of a sister, she doesn't really care.
She couldn't even save herself.
We are now down to 47 minutes until sunset. I am stressed. Audrey says they should call Duke and get him to come over to test Moira's blood to confirm whether or not she's troubled now.
Duke will react if he touches her blood.
Speaking of Duke, things are getting a little bit tense between him and Tommy. They have a fight and Tommy's blood soaks into Duke's skin, so his eyes turn silver, he gets really strong. So this does in fact mean that Tommy is troubled, along with being a serial killer. So he's a troubled serial killer. Back with Moira, Audrey brings Nathan's corpse inside the house to join the party, so that's nice. He's here now too. Moira reminds us that when her and Noelle were kids, Noelle refused to use her trouble to save their father after a car accident, and so the father died permanently as a result because Noelle wouldn't bring him back. The sun is now starting to set, and Audrey gets super cranky and unhinged with Moira now. Our girl is crazy when it comes to saving our man.
You're not a killer.
You have no idea what I am.
That's something that they actually have in common with each other. They are so ride or die that just unhinged behaviour just happens when they're in trouble. An iconic couple. Duke arrives, having survived the Tommy ordeal, and tests Moira's blood, and she's not troubled yet. Vince and Dave visit their fishing shack that I mentioned earlier that was broken into, and Tommy shows up. So Tommy's the one that broke into the fishing shack. He is no longer hiding the fact that he's the serial killer. He's very open about that. Now Audrey has absolutely lost the plot, and I respect it. Audrey realizes that the reason Noelle didn't save her and Moira's dad after the car accident when they were kids is because she saved Moira first, because Moira actually died, and Noelle can only save one person a day. So Moira and their father died in the car accident, and Noelle could only bring back one of them, and she chose her sister. This revelation traumatizes Moira enough. She rushes over and touches both Noelle and Nathan in an attempt to bring them back. However, the sun has in fact set. Audrey says this to Nathan's corpse.
I've always loved you.
It breaks my heart.
I always will love you.
But then Moira's blood soaks into Duke's skin, and she starts to experience Noelle and Nathan's wounds. They start happening to her, and you guessed it, our boy wakes up. Thank God he's back. I love him. Noelle also wakes up, which is great, but less exciting for me. But now, because Moira touched two people and resurrected two in one day, she starts dying. The two sisters have a really beautiful moment. Nathan quickly realizes that they have a bit of a situation because of the whole Tommy being the bolt gun killer thing and being murdered by Tommy. So he doesn't get too much time to celebrate the fact that he's been resurrected from the dead. Tommy is at the fishing shack questioning and beating up Vince and Dave. He thinks that they might know where the Colorado kid is. Then Tommy asks them where the barn is.
Tell me where the barn is.
The infamous barn.
What do you know about the barn?
The whole rest of the series, we hear so much about barns. It's a lot of barn talk. Vince says that the only person that goes into the barn is Audrey, and that it arrives back in Haven specifically for her. Nathan and Audrey arrive at the fishing shack and chase down Tommy, but they accidentally blow up the boat that he's fleeing on. This naturally upsets Audrey, who wanted to get more information from him because he seemed to know a whole lot about her and her past lives, and she would have loved to know what he knew. Our girl has been through the ringer today. At the Gull, Duke is being real sweet with Audrey and also playing the ukulele. Love Duke. They sort of get a little bit of closure with each other briefly about the Colorado incident.
About Colorado.
Yeah, it all worked out for the best. Made it home in time, saved Nathan's life. It's all good.
Audrey then fills in Claire about the whole Colorado kid being her son thing. Audrey says she's going to use the time that she has left in Haven to try and find him. Nathan comes over to talk to Audrey about all the questions that they have with the whole Tommy thing and the fact that his body hasn't in fact been discovered. So that's interesting. Nathan wants to go elsewhere and talk to Audrey, but Audrey clocks Jordan kind of creepily staring at them, and then she heads off. Nathan reluctantly heads over to Jordan. Maybe it's not reluctantly, maybe he wants to. I'm on the Jordan hate train. We know this. Vince approaches Audrey and the two of them have a little chat. Vince gets the most honest that he's probably ever been. Vince tells Audrey a bit about Sarah and knowing Sarah.
You're always somehow the same.
She asks who the father of James is.
Who's the father?
And Vince says that she never told anyone.
Sarah never told anyone.
So no one knows who Sarah had James with. No one knows. Vince then sees the barn appear behind Audrey, and he returns to his usual suspect behaviour and doesn't tell her. That was a lot. Episode 9 is Sarah, and it is one of my all-time favourites of the entire series. It is so bloody good. We open on Duke's boat. He's looking through his dad's journal that we discovered last season, and he sees a note that reminds us that his dad was killed by Sarah. We also see her last name for the first time, which is Vernon, so I'll add that really quick. Sarah Vernon. Girlie's got a last name. Duke also sees a note in the journal about a guy named Stuart Mosley, so he goes to see him. Stuart actually recognises Duke in the same way that everyone always recognises Audrey as her past selves. Then he zaps Duke and teleports him to the beach. Duke is less than pleased.
Oh, I hate this town.
Then, Duke very quickly realizes that he has been transported to 1955.
It's 1955, the year you should think about sobering up.
Actually, I think it's the year that I start drinking.
Duke enters a bar, and the costuming and the vibes and the set is so spot on and exciting. Like, I love the amount of effort put into this episode already. It's so good. A bar fight breaks out randomly, and Duke saves the bartender from being impaled and killed. Duke then gets arrested for being involved in the bar fight, and he's taken to the Haven police station, of course. The cops are very confused by Duke's existence and by his belongings.
What is this?
At the moment, paperweight.
The bartender gets Duke released from the police station because of the whole saving his life thing. Back in current day Haven, Nathan chases after Audrey with coffee. I love him. Chase after me with a coffee. Sorry. Audrey starts to tell Nathan about the latest Colorado Kid news with him being Sarah's son, but she doesn't get to it because she notices that the Haven Herald, has disappeared from Haven. It's been replaced. When she points this out to Nathan, Nathan says that Dave killed Vince 15 years ago. That's an odd thing to say. Audrey expresses the weirdness to Nathan. She's like, this is not correct.
This is a Haven thing.
Back in 1955, Duke is trying to find Stuart Mosley to bring him back to current day, but he's struggling. Duke does get an idea though. Audrey and Nathan are trying to figure out what else has changed. Audrey sees a note that has been held by the post office for 60 years until this exact date, and it's from Duke.
1955.
Someone 60 years ago.
It's from Duke.
I didn't know that the post office could do that, but that's fun. So now they realize that Duke being in 1955 is changing things in the present day. Nathan and Audrey go to see Stuart Mosley as directed by Duke's note. Nathan picks up a current photo of Stuart. Stuart recognizes Audrey sort of, and then Nathan rocks up and Stuart zaps him into 1955 as well. So now Duke and Nathan are in 1955. Duke has gone back to the bar. Nathan rocks up at the same bar. Nathan tells Duke that he's changed things in the present day Haven. Duke realizes that saving the bartender may have caused an issue, which does not thrill Nathan. To make things even better, they discover that the bartender Duke saved is Duke's granddad.
Roy Crocker. Any relation?
Grandpa Crocker was just saved by his grandson in 1955 in a bar fight. Duke, however, knows from his journal that he's supposed to be killed by Sarah on this exact date in 1955, so that's really weird. Duke and Nathan figure that they have to kill Duke's granddad now in order to fix things in current day Haven. That's the conclusion that they've come to. Back in current Haven, Claire shows up to Audrey and tells her that she's a fugitive who attempted to kill the Rev. So in this current day Haven, Audrey did not successfully murder the Rev. Claire tells Audrey that Nathan died protecting her. So Nathan's dead again. Nah.
No.
It's not on. Back in the 50s, Nathan runs into his dad, the chief. Love him. He is outside the Haven police station as a little boy. It's very, very cute.
I think I can be a cop one day like you.
And I might cry about it.
Be a real good cop, too.
Nathan's trying to track down Stuart to get them back into current day Haven and fix things, and he hears that Stuart is arriving at the docks that day. Back at the bar, Duke is trying to psych himself up to kill his own granddad. Fun time for Duke. Then Duke overhears that his granddad has been ordered to kill Stuart Mosley, which could obviously pose an issue. Duke ends up saving his granddad once again. Good job, Duke. He meets up with Nathan at the docks and gives him the bad news. Duke tries to justify not killing his granddad, and then Nathan drops this absolutely savage line.
Time, space, continuum, so you can work out your daddy issues.
I love him. Duke wants to get his granddad to just leave Haven so that Sarah doesn't kill him. Then the woman herself arrives at the docks. Nathan and Duke look kind of starstruck to see her, which is adorable. What we're all wanting me to address is the wig situation, and it's actually looking pretty good in comparison to past events, which is a relief because we see a lot of Sarah and her hair this episode. Duke tells Nathan to watch himself with Sarah.
May look like Audrey, but she's not.
I'm sure that's advice that he'll follow. Oh no. Duke sees his granddad writing his last journal entry, which is actually super cool. And Nathan arrives at the hospital to meet Sarah and talk to Stuart, who Sarah is taking care of because Sarah's a nurse. Stuart is seemingly catatonic, but Sarah is very lively. Nathan is behaving like a little crushed up schoolboy. So cute. Sarah escorts Nathan out of the hospital room and I love her. She's an icon. Emily did a great job at creating and bringing Sarah to life. She's so slay. Nathan can't help himself and we get this moment.
It's kind of incredible.
Explain yourself.
Duke is trying to get his granddad to leave town, and it seems to be going well until his granddad sees his own journal in Duke's jacket. Duke's granddad reads about how Sarah is meant to kill him. Shouldn't have left that laying around, Duke. Also, Duke's granddad's name is Roy. There's Roy. You're welcome. Duke's granddad knocks Duke out because he's like, what's going on with the journal from the future? Sarah and Nathan are having an adorable date on the beach, sipping beers. Sarah says that she's only just arrived in Haven. The chemistry is so different from Nathan and Audrey, but it's so good. It's so much fun. Sarah is so forward with Nathan, and I'm obsessed with it. Nathan backs off though, and Sarah gets disappointed and says this.
I always go for the shy ones.
Remember that line. Nathan hears this line and turns back around and they start hooking up on the beach. It's a time. Back with Duke, his granddad's not really loving him right now and asking him about why his own obituary is in Duke's journal. Duke tries to explain the situation and it actually goes pretty well.
I'm your grandson.
Then his granddad comes to the conclusion that he has to kill Sarah before she can kill him. Nathan arrives to get Duke and be filled in on the unfortunate little pickle that they're in right now. Because Duke's granddad is very much on his way to kill Sarah and therefore Lucy and therefore Audrey. So that's not great. Back in Current Haven, Claire and Audrey are trying to flee the town because people are trying to kill Audrey. Our girl is an assassination target in both timelines right now. Sarah is helping Stuart out with his trouble a little bit. She's so lovely. Back again at Current Haven, we see the chief, who is still alive. Yay. The chief instantly believes Audrey about the whole time travel changing things in Haven thing, and he's very happy to hear that in the real Current Haven, his son is alive. Then some guys with guns show up looking very ready to shoot and kill Audrey. That seems to be what they're here to do. 1955 again, and Nathan arrives at the hospital to warn Sarah, who is very happy to see him, but then she gets the news that someone's trying to kill her, which makes her a little bit less happy. Nathan doesn't need to work too hard to convince her that this is a real threat. She sort of jumps on board with that pretty quick.
I trust you.
Nathan tells her to go down to the basement and meet Duke. Nathan gives Sarah a gun and sends her on her way. She does turn around and give him a real nice goodbye kiss first, though. Sarah heads down to the basement to meet Duke, but his granddad is already there, waiting for her, so that's not great. Sarah and Duke's granddad point guns at each other, which is nice. Duke tries to de-escalate the situation. It seems to be going okay, but then Duke's granddad tries to kill Sarah, and so she shoots him, and he dies. Duke's just witnessed his granddad die. Poor Duke, as per usual. Nathan and Duke wonder if this is maybe how it always happened, which is a cool concept to think about with time travel. Sarah struggles with the whole killing a man thing. She's not dealing with that really well. Nathan gives her the Haven induction speech, which is so cool. Nathan tells her he's from the future, sort of.
From Haven, I just didn't say when.
And he needs her help to get back. And she's just on board because she loves him, just like me. Nathan coaches Sarah on how to help Stuart with his trouble, which is really cool. If this is how it always happened, then Nathan was always the one that taught Sarah to help people with their troubles. Nathan and Sarah say goodbye. Sarah shows Stuart the photo of himself in Current Haven that Nathan picked up. Stuart sees this and then sends Nathan and Duke back to that Current Haven. This very conveniently saves Audrey from getting shot in the face. So that's great. Duke and Nathan tell Audrey a bit about their experience. Nathan leaves out the whole hooking up with Sarah on the beach thing though. He really had a great time with her past self in 1955. He leaves that info out. Audrey then finally tells Nathan that when she was in Colorado, she found out that the Colorado kid was Sarah's son.
When I was Sarah, I had a baby. Colorado kid is my son.
Nathan has an interesting reaction. We shall put a pin in that, but I'm sure the connection has been made. Wild. Anyway, we see Sarah back in 1955 talking to her version of Agent Howard, telling him that she'd like to stay in Haven. So that is really cool to see Sarah's origin. Before we move on to episode 10, I've got great news. We can finally say goodbye to Scary Wig Sarah. Goodbye. You were iconic, but so upsetting. That is more like it. Episode 10 is Burned, and we are back to the sort of regular trouble of the week situation, but this episode is not without its major plot developments and revelations, so don't worry. We open at a crime scene with Nathan and Audrey uncovering a burnt corpse. It is suspected to be another one of Tommy's victims. Nathan checks in on Audrey, and we realise that she's pretty much convinced that Tommy's not dead. The bolt gun killer is still alive, killing people. They are both still really curious about what the bolt gun killer's motivations are, because he's got some very strange behaviour. Next, we see a couple of guys throw themselves out of a moving car. Nathan and Audrey arrive at that scene and discover that a young girl was left inside of the car. Her name is Ginger. No offence to any gingers, it just feels like a strange name for this child to have. I don't know, can't explain it. Audrey checks in with Ginger. She wants to know where her dad is because he's gone running. He fled the moving vehicle and left his daughter in there. Ginger is now back at the station talking to Claire because she's a psychiatrist, so she's trying to help this child, but it's not going well. Duke shows up and starts jokingly chatting to Ginger and actually seems to get her to open up a little bit. Then he says this:
I imagine them in their underwear.
Okay.
Still but a simple man. Our medical examiner shows up again with results on the burnt body from the very beginning of this episode. So Audrey palms off Ginger to Duke to look after. She's like, that kid is your problem now, Duke. Back at the Gun and Rose diner, Jordan is getting all touchy with Nathan, and I still really hate it. Nathan asks about the men that abandoned Ginger, because apparently the driver was a member of the guard, and apparently the guard was transporting Ginger and her dad because of a trouble. Jordan claims she doesn't know anything about it. We then discover that Nathan has been asking Jordan about whether the guard has any info on Audrey's impending disappearance.
Anything new from the guard about Audrey?
Bless him. Nathan then heads off, and we discover that Jordan is straight up lying to Nathan about knowing what the go is with Ginger and her dad and stuff. She's a liar. So the burned body from the opening was definitely killed by the bolt gun killer. That is confirmed. But because this is Haven, we discover that the body was Tommy's, and he's been dead for 6 weeks. Should we be surprised? Probably not. But this really does throw a spanner in the works, because Tommy obviously wasn't actually the killer, because the killer killed Tommy, and then someone who seemed to be Tommy is the killer. Duke and Ginger are hanging out now, and Duke reminds us about his daughter Jean, which is always sad.
I just don't think I was meant to have a family.
But thanks for the reminder that happened. We should continue to acknowledge that Duke has a daughter.
And we're not going to forget it. We're not going to forget Jean.
Ginger says she wants to go get ice cream, and Duke is immediately like, yeah, sure, even though he told Audrey that they would stay at the station. Duke is advocating for ice cream semantics when Ginger disappears behind him. Do not let this man babysit a child. Nathan and Audrey roast him for losing the child. They all split up to go find Ginger, and Audrey tells Nathan about the Tommy was dead the whole time thing. Nathan is confused as to who they were working with the whole time. If it wasn't Tommy, who was that guy?
Some troubled person impersonating Tommy and killing people with a bolt gun who was also looking for my son.
A man is running with Ginger until she tells him to let her go and that she hates his guts. So he lets her go, and then he stabs himself in the guts with a knife, guts himself a bit. Jordan's there too. Nathan and Audrey show up at the third crime scene of the episode. They figure out that the man stabbed himself, and they also figure out that Ginger is the troubled one and has some kind of hypnosis trouble. Duke is with Ginger again, and she's using her trouble on him despite Audrey trying to warn him. Ginger has kind of hypnotized Duke with her trouble into giving us a pirate show, which is enjoyable, but he has no regard for his safety during this because he's under her hypnosis situation. So in the enthusiasm of being a pirate, he falls off the balcony of the Gull, which is a considerable height. Audrey questions Ginger because she's not affected by her trouble, obviously. Ginger reveals that she asked the men in the car to leave her alone, so they did. That's why they jumped out of the moving vehicle. Apparently her dad was bringing her to Haven through the guard to help manage her trouble. They said that they could help her with that. Ginger then wonders why her dad hasn't tried to track her down, and this gives us a really nice parallel.
Sometimes people have to go away, even when they don't want to.
Nathan and Audrey decide to track down her father in order to solve her trouble. Then Ginger describes seeing Jordan earlier at the gut stabbing incident. Nathan is very much upset by this. He meets up with her at their cemetery spot, which continues to be really strange. He's very hostile with her, and I love it. Jordan claims to also be looking for Ginger's dad, and the guard are trying to help as well. They're all apparently trying to look for him. Nathan points out how dangerous Ginger really is.
She just made Duke take a dive off a railing at the Gull, and he's the one person in town she likes.
Jordan insists that the guard has good intentions in this situation, but she says that the guard can't work with Haven PD, which is super sus and very annoying. The ME calls Audrey with a clue as to where the bulk gun killer might be hiding out, so that's promising. Then Jordan sneaks up to Ginger. It's very creepy and scary, and she tries to take her. Audrey stops the kidnapping, and then Nathan shows up too. Nathan arrests Jordan, and we love to see it. The gang interrogates Jordan at the Gull. Jordan is pretty tight-lipped though, and Ginger offers her services.
People do what I say, right?
They let Ginger use her trouble to help them out. Jordan tries to fight it, but it obviously doesn't work. So the guard is holding Ginger's dad hostage for some reason that we're about to find out. Ginger is told to ask Jordan what the guard wants with her, and she says it's to use her in case Audrey becomes difficult, which is a vague and not so fun thing to say. Nathan points out that Ginger's trouble wouldn't work on Audrey. Jordan then tells him that they weren't going to use it on Audrey, they were going to use it on Nathan. The thinking is that if they control Nathan and threaten him with Ginger's trouble, then they would control Audrey because she would want to help and protect Nathan.
We'd be able to control Audrey.
That is mean, to use Audrey against themselves. Jordan suddenly tries to save face a little bit with Nathan, but he's not having it. He just wants to cut to the chase and figure out what the guard wanted to control Audrey for, as in why they wanted to threaten Nathan in order to control her. Jordan answers this by explaining that Lucy didn't want to go in the barn 27 years ago and almost got away, so this time they were going to use Ginger's trouble on Nathan in order to make Audrey go into the barn. When asked about this mysterious barn, Jordan explains that when Audrey goes inside of this barn, she, it, and the Troubles disappear for a whole last 27 years.
The troubles in Haven stop. 27 years.
So that is how the 27-year cycle works. Yeah, crazy revelation. Are we still following? It's a lot of info. I'm trying my best. This is obviously upsetting and crazy news for everyone involved. We can't dwell on it too much right now though, because we have to go save Ginger's dad real quick. So that's what Nathan and Audrey do. Father and daughter reunite. A guard member shows up out of nowhere, but Ginger's trouble has been fixed after the reunion, so she can't use that to get him to stand down. Nathan says he'll let Jordan go from jail because he arrested her for attempting to kidnap a child if this guard man doesn't shoot everyone. We also get very important confirmation that Nathan is super done with the guard now that he knows what they were planning to do to Audrey, and also to him. He's done with the guard and with Jordan. Nathan lets Jordan out of jail as per his deal with the guard. Jordan tries to justify her actions, but Nathan shuts it down. Thank you, Nathan. He's come to his senses. They have an exchange and Jordan finally understands that it's always been Audrey. She had no chance. Sorry, babe. Nathan and Audrey head to a location that they believe the bulk gun killer might have been hiding out at. Nathan talks to Audrey about Jordan's new info on the barn. He encourages her to still try and find a way out of her impending disappearance.
If I'm supposed to fix the troubles going into some magic barn, then...
No, promise. We'll try and find another way.
But first we have to deal with the serial killer. We should sort that out. There's lots going on in this town. The two of them head inside of the bulk gun killer hideout and they find fish tank situations filled with people's skin. I did warn you way back in part 1 that this would be happening.
Skin wearing happens in the series, so that's something we can all look forward to.
You had warning. This is obviously unsettling to Nathan and Audrey.
Hey, the next Thomas skin.
So Tommy, the missing guard guy that they thought was the bulk gun killer for a minute, and Rosalind all have their skin chilling in fish tanks. So they were skinned, not great. They were killed first, but still, Nathan breaks down the reality of the situation.
That's why I use a bolt gun. No exit wound leaves the skin intact.
With ease. So he's a good detective, but it is gross and I hate it. He mentions skinwalkers and suggests they might be based on a trouble.
It's a man who can wear skin like a suit.
Which is kind of cool. It's similar to the Wendigo situation last season, taking those concepts and remixing them for a sci-fi show. I love it. They see an empty tank, which indicates that the killer is currently wearing someone's skin and they don't know who. So this is very much giving the Cluedo episode from season 1. This is that, but on a huge scale, like a very scary, large scale. So someone is the bolt gun killer walking around town wearing someone's skin. Alrighty, so real quick before we get into episode 11. Is it episode 11? I've had a break in between. Right before we get into that, on Nathan's side of things, our connection from Audrey to her past life, Sarah, and then we've got his romantic involvement as well with the 1955 specification. I've covered it all for now. There's more coming, don't worry. This is Nolan North's episode. It's Nathan Drake's turn. This also brings me to my fun observation that I thought I would share with you. Emily Rose has had 2 on-screen romances with characters named Nathan that spanned over like multiple years. It's only 2 times, but it's weird that it happened twice. Episode 11 is Last Goodbyes, and once again, it's another one of my all-time faves. Opens with the whole gang rolling up at the recently discovered bolt gun killer's hideout with all the fish tanks and the skin and that whole moment. I've just realized, I think I missed a part in my script that mentioned figuring out that the skinwalker is trying to build a woman's face.
What if he's building a woman?
Very terrifying, very gross, good drama. That's really important, and I think I've missed it in my script. This is me mentioning that the bolt gun killer is building a woman, and that's why he's chopping off people's face. So Nathan and Audrey point out that they have to figure out who the skinwalker is wearing now, and it could be any of them. So they discuss that wearing someone's skin isn't a foolproof plan to blend in instantly. Claire explains how we can potentially catch the skinwalker and figure out who they are.
So we could catch him using secrets, memories.
Audrey points out that it's most likely that the skinwalker is wearing one of them in their close circle.
He's been with us the whole time, and I bet he still is.
They plan to head down to the station and talk to everyone to try and figure out who it could be. Outside of the hideout, we find a whole bunch of bodies, missing pieces, which is lovely. Audrey and Nathan talk on the phone that afternoon, and it's very sweet, reconciling a little bit now that Jordan's out of the picture. The next morning, Audrey is driving into town when she notices that everyone is unconscious, including Nathan, but he and everyone else are alive, just unconscious for some reason. Then we get our first flashback to the day prior, where Nathan and Audrey are discussing the whole building a woman's face thing. They plan to make a composite of all the missing pieces and see if it's recognizable as like a human woman's face. Audrey notices a little puffin earring that was left on a woman's body whose lips were taken. Her lips were cut off, and all that was kind of left of her in terms of physical evidence, other than her body, was a little earring. What a light-hearted, fun little sci-fi show. Back to Sleepy Haven, Audrey is wandering around all the passed-out people in town, trying to figure out what's going on. Suddenly, a non-passed-out person shows up behind her. She pulls her gun, and it's Nolan North. Nathan Drake is in Haven. Audrey is immediately suspicious of this guy because he seems to be the only other person in town that is awake. Their dynamic is instantly similar to Nathan and Elena with the banter of it all, and I'm so obsessed. Nolan's character doesn't know who he is, and Audrey is unamused by that excuse.
I don't remember anything.
Gonna give me amnesia?
But to be fair, Audrey, if anyone in any town is going to lose their memory of who they are, it's going to be in Haven. Audrey asks him if everyone he's come across is also unconscious.
Yes, Officer Skeptic.
They head to the spot where Nolan's character woke up. Audrey notices an ambulance around the area. They continue to have their fun little banter. I love it.
Have you heard of the Troubles?
Is that a band or something?
Audrey figures that he was being taken to a hospital and his trouble was triggered on the trip there. So she breaks down how she thinks he's caused everyone to pass out with his trouble, and he's not super receptive of the concept.
Let me fill you in. Nap time is not a superpower.
They're not superpowers, they're curses.
Oh, curses.
They continue their really fun dynamic before heading to the station.
I'm immune to the Troubles.
How convenient.
This is also a direct reference to the first Uncharted game.
You can argue with me on the way there.
We can argue about it later.
Back to another flashback from the day before, Audrey questions Claire to see if she's the skinwalker. They end up coming to the conclusion that neither of them are the skinwalker, and therefore neither of them are dead. So yay. Audrey explains that she only has a few days left before the hunter and her disappearance. Time has flown, we only have a few days. Claire points out that it's still enough time to say goodbye if that's what she wants to do. In Sleepy Haven, Audrey is looking for records that could identify who Nolan is. Audrey gets sus when she can't access the records, and Nolan drops some medical knowledge to defend himself. Thinking that Nolan might be a doctor, she asks him to take a look at Nathan and assess the situation. Nolan says that they're all in comas and not just sleeping. So comas are not great. Audrey asks how long it'll be before this particular coma kills everyone, and we've got 12 hours. They try to get Nolan to remember some stuff about his life so they can identify him. He tells her about a possible sport-related memory, and they head off. It's the day before again, and it's Duke's interrogation time. Duke proves that it's him and not the skinwalker by bringing up the Colorado incident again. I told you this incident is not going away anytime soon. It is referenced a lot. But this confirms that Duke is not the skinwalker and therefore he is alive. So yay for Duke. Before Duke leaves, he expresses his frustration about how chill everyone is with Audrey just going into the barn and disappearing. Audrey justifies her reasoning.
If I go into that barn, the troubles disappear. For 27 years, they're gone.
Haven, everyone's in a coma version. Audrey brings Nolan to the Gull to try and identify him from Haven's sports team pictures. Nolan's in the sports picture and we get a name for his character, which is Will Brady. So I'm going to stop calling him Nolan and I'm going to start calling him Will. So now the two of them can head to his house to get more information on what his deal is. It's the day before again, and Claire and Audrey are interviewing Nathan now. Nathan is pretty quick to prove it's him.
It's Nathan. It's him.
Back to Coma Town, Audrey and Will arrive at his place. They see that he has a PhD in archaeology.
Indiana Jones style. Very cool.
Which is another fun Easter egg towards Nathan Drake. It seems like no one's been at Will's house in a really long time. Then Audrey finds the other puffin earring that was on the dead body that had her lips taken off. And so she is immediately like, oh my god, you're the killer. She jumps to that conclusion instantly. Will gets on the defense because the vibe has instantly shifted and he's a little bit frightened. Audrey asks him about the earring and it causes him to remember where it came from. So the two of them now head off to unlock more of his memories. It's the day before again and it's Vince and Dave's turn to be interrogated. They are as difficult as usual, which is what proves their identity.
I know you're both you, because you're not telling me everything.
Coma time again, and Audrey's showing Will all of the corpses with the missing pieces. In particular, the one with the puffin earring with her lips gone. It never gets any easier to deal with the missing pieces of women's faces. It's very unfortunate. Will's not thrilled by the idea of seeing a dead body, and then he remembers this woman instantly. So Will was friends with this woman, and he tells Audrey that they were attacked. He was knocked down, and he saw her get shot in the back of the head with the bolt gun. He also mentions that he heard the killer say the word hush, to his friend before killing her. It's a very traumatic situation for this poor man. I'm sorry, Will. That's a lot for you. Audrey is still a little bit sus on him. I'm not. This feels pretty legit. He explains that he was crushing on his friend really hard. He was going to tell her that day that they went out that he had feelings for her, but instead she died and he got put into a coma. This is a lesson to shoot your shot. So Will explaining that he was waiting for the perfect time really hits home again for Audrey. So
It's just always waiting for the right time, you know?
Yeah, I do know.
these two are really bonding right now. So Audrey sort of believes Will's story now, and she figures that he's been in a coma for 2 months and the ambulance might have been taking him home instead of to the hospital, which has some sad implications. So the two of them find his hospital room and make some conclusions about what's going on. They figure out that Will could hear everything that was going on in the hospital whilst he was in the coma. So his family pulled the plug on him that morning and they were sending him home to die. He's having a rough time of it. Will's now determined to fix things in Haven. Audrey points out that Will will probably have to go back into his coma in order for everyone else to get out of his coma. Audrey starts to refer her own fears onto the situation, but Will instead submits to his fate. He accepts that this is what he has to do, and he heads to put himself back into his lethal coma. They arrive back at the ambulance, and Will deduces that he can wake everyone up.
Oh, supernaturally like.
The two of them have a really nice moment, and I really appreciate it. Audrey continues to try and work out her own issues through Will's situation.
It's for the good of everyone else.
Will manages to make an impact and turn Audrey's outlook on the whole disappearance thing around.
Maybe it isn't over.
So thank you, Will. You were so much fun. Thanks for the inspiration. We loved you. Will goes back into his coma. Sad for Will. Audrey uses the gas leak excuse again to explain everyone in town being in a coma.
A gas leak townwide. Again.
She gets the ambulance to take Will back to the hospital and then convinces his family that he can hear them and also that they shouldn't give up on him. They shouldn't pull the plug because he's still in there. This then obviously proves that Audrey is willing to fight her fate. All of that fate stuff back in season 1, it's coming around. What did I tell ya?
It's all about fate, baby.
Audrey checks in with the now awake Nathan. Audrey's gone on such a journey this episode with managing her fate and opening herself up, and we get this really nice exchange with her and Nathan because of that.
Nathan, I'm really sorry that I pushed you away.
Parker, I'm still here.
To end out the episode, we're at Audrey's loft with Audrey and Claire, and they're working on the case in terms of trying to figure out who the Skinwalker is and what he's sort of up to, other than building a woman. That's one thing that he's up to. Audrey explains to Claire that she now does in fact want to fight her fate and try and stay in Haven and not disappear forever. Claire has a strange sort of slip up, which is really alarming. Audrey gets sus. She tries to brush it off, pretend it didn't happen, but then Claire says hush.
Hush. Hush.
And so now it's over. It's done. It's Claire. What a crazy cool episode all round though. I mean, I'm sad about Claire, we'll address that next episode, but very fun time. Episode 12 is Reunion, and it's the last bit of fun we get because next episode is a lot. So let's just enjoy this while we can. We pick back up right where we left off in the loft. So we pick back up there. Claire is the Skinwalker, which actually means that our girl Claire is dead. R.I.P. Claire, you were a fun girlfriend for Audrey to have, which was really rare. Miss you, girly. Also, having a psychiatrist around was really helpful. Skinwalker Claire is super menacing and scary, and she seems to know so much about what's going on, and she's very cranky at Audrey, specifically. Audrey asks what the killer's problem is, and she says this.
Your son knows how to stop the troubles.
And then she pistol whips Audrey and heads out. Nathan shows up at Audrey's loft, and she tells him what's up. He's initially a little bit scared that she might now be the Skinwalker, but she quickly debunks that.
You feel me, right?
I've got a quick and easy way to do that. Audrey tells Nathan that the Skinwalker seems to know things about hers/Sarah's son, the Colorado kid, and so they need to track the Skinwalker down. Next, we see a guy running through a high school before getting crushed behind bleachers and turning into a teenager. So that's the trouble of the episode. People get turned back into teenagers. It's a lot of fun. Nathan and Audrey arrive at the scene, and Nathan explains that the dead kid was in his graduating class. Classic Haven shenanigans. It's Nathan's class reunion coming up that night, and some of his old classmates rock up to the scene. They comment that a guy named Robert used to be a dorky kid named Robbie. That's something I have to mention. Nathan and Audrey get called back to the station, and Nathan is keen to steer clear of the reunion. He doesn't want to be involved. He doesn't want to see people from high school. The gang is at the station creating the composite to see who the Skinwalker is building. So we get our final pick/composite of what this woman is going to look like, and Audrey and Duke recognize her as the Colorado kid's wife, Arla Kogan, who is also Audrey's daughter-in-law. So I should put that on here. Alright, there's Arla. She's here. And she's a serial killer. That's really fun. So we finally see Arla/the Skinwalker put her full face on, and it's very alarming and creepy. I don't like it at all, but here she is. Arla shows up at the Gull, looking hot, and not at all like a patchwork of dead women's skin. That's really worked out for her. Robert/Robbie from earlier shows up and hears that Duke was a jerk recently at the bar really quick. I just have to quickly mention that. Robert is still a thing happening in Haven because the trouble with the teenagers, that's still happening kind of peripherally. There's a lot going on. Duke and Arla have a nice little chat at the Gull. Arla says that everyone should want Audrey to go back into the barn, and Duke doesn't agree.
Trapping my friend in some kind of supernatural building for the next 27 years?
Thank you, Duke. Appreciate it. No one wants Audrey to disappear forever. That would be horrible. Oh, shit. Okay. Arla says that it's all just part of a cycle, though, and it's gotta happen.
Lucy and Sarah and who knows how many others.
Audrey's gotta disappear, that it's just inevitable. Dwight informs Vince and Dave that the guard are watching the gang to make sure that they don't try and stop Audrey from going into the barn. So he's giving us a bit of a warning for that, thanks Dwight. We see another dead classmate of Nathan's who's been turned into a teenager. Nathan tells Audrey that she doesn't have to help out with the case if she doesn't want to, and she says this.
If I only have a day left, I'd rather spend it with you.
That answers that. Nathan points out that if the killer is targeting his graduating class, then they should let the reunion happen in order to catch this person. So basically they want to use Nathan's entire graduating class as bait. Back at the Gull, Duke is just drinking about his encounter with Arla. That's the only way he knows how to deal with it, before he gets attacked and turned back into a teenager. Teenage Duke is a good time. At the station, Audrey finds a picture of teen Nathan. I love him. Teen Duke then comes running into the station. Audrey obviously doesn't recognize him though.
Duke? It's me.
But Nathan does and seems quite amused. So they figure the person turning people back into teenagers is probably someone that's in town specifically for the reunion and is mad at how they were treated during high school. Later, Audrey finds Dwight waiting for her in her office. Dwight fills Audrey in on the fact that 27 years ago, Arla wanted the guard to bring the gun... Bring the gun? That's not it at all. Arla wanted the guard to bring the barn back after Lucy disappeared with it, which is strange. That's something of note. Dwight also reveals that it's kind of the guard's fault that his daughter died. So that's why he's not on great terms with them, which is so fair, because in case you forgot, Dwight's daughter's dead. Apparently that's a little bit the guard's fault.
The guard killed your daughter.
Might as well have.
Audrey tells Dwight that she doesn't really want to go into the barn, but might have to in order to save everyone in Haven. Dwight's real nice about it.
That's a horrible choice to have to make.
He's sweet. Nathan is now questioning one of his classmates that they think could be the person turning everyone back into teenagers and killing some of them, but she explains that she has a different trouble. It is probably the strangest trouble that we've seen. The standards are high.
What's your trouble?
Cake.
Excuse me?
But I really do think that she, no pun intended, takes the cake.
Any food I touch turns into cake. Doesn't matter what it is.
Duke starts to panic a little bit that he's going to be stuck as a teenager. Then Nathan says something really sad. Surprise at the moment. He's a sad guy.
Kind of wish it had happened to me.
He thinks that would be convenient. Duke spells out why.
27 years, you'd still be young.
I'd get another chance with her.
Which is very sad. Vince and Dave track down Arla and question her. Arla talks about there being another way to stop the troubles. Dave knocks Vince out and tells Arla to tell him what the other way is. It's odd. Vince and Dave continue to be strange folks. At the reunion now, Audrey shows up in a cute little lacy top. I'm obsessed. We never see her dressed up. She asks Nathan to dance, and he says this.
Tough when you can't feel your feet.
Then Audrey says this.
Why do I always go for the shy ones?
Which, if we remember, is exactly what Sarah said on the beach before Nathan turned around and they had their iconic hookup. So you know that this man is about to dance with Audrey. You know it's gotta happen. He can't help himself. Audrey asks Nathan what he was like in high school, and he says that he was a bit of an outsider. God, I love him. They discuss the trouble some more while having their little dance, and they figure out that it's probably Robert/Robbie with the trouble and the murderous tendencies. It's Robbie/Robert. Robert is continuing to be bullied by some of his old classmates. This causes him to turn back into his teen self, which is very funnily a lot taller than his adult self. So now him as his teen self is heading off to attack his bullies. Talk about unresolved trauma. Where's Claire?
I'm a psychiatrist.
She's dead. Nathan, Audrey, and Teen Duke all chase after Robbie and they try to stop him from killing his bullies. Robbie then grabs Audrey and tries to turn her back, but it doesn't work. Our girl is famously immune to all of the troubles. Then he goes to just attack and kill her, but Arla shoots him from a balcony. Not sure why she's here. Strange behavior. She's a wild card. What is she up to? Robbie then turns back into an adult and he turns Duke back into an adult as well. Duke and Nathan are keeping an eye on Audrey because it's the night before the meteor storm. So they're going to stick around and kind of make sure that nothing crazy happens to her. I'm sure that'll work. Nathan tells Audrey that he's not giving up on her, of course.
I'm not giving up.
And then Duke backs him up. And then Audrey says this.
Good to know that my guys have my back.
We're appreciative of these men. Audrey says goodnight to Nathan and heads up to her loft. Dwight shows up at the Gull to tell Nathan that the guard are going to do everything that they can to get Audrey into the barn. And Nathan replies with this.
Audrey's going in that barn over my dead body.
Continuing to be a ride or die icon. Audrey is surprised by Arla waiting for her at her loft. I thought Duke changed the locks. This is ridiculous. Arla is pointing a gun at Audrey, which is regular behaviour for her at this point. She continues to be a little bit of a funny gal.
James's wife.
In the flesh, as close as I could get.
She's a little bit chucklesome, I must say. Arla explains that when James comes out of the barn, she needs to look like her old self. So that's why she's killed a bunch of women, chopped up their faces, built herself a new face. That's why she's done that. More importantly, the whole James being in the barn thing. Audrey asks Arla, what do you mean James is in the barn? What's up with that? So, apparently after James was killed on the beach, famously, with the Colorado Kid picture, Lucy brought him into the barn because she thought it would heal him / bring him back to life. Because the barn is obviously some sort of supernatural situation, so Lucy took him into the barn. Lucy was apparently also going to take Arla into the barn with him.
Lucy said she'd bring both of us into the barn with her.
But then her trouble kicked in because of probably the trauma of her husband dying. She tells us a little bit about what that was like.
My skin just started to slide off.
Absolutely horrifying. So then she killed a woman to steal her skin.
Instincts.
After finding this out, Lucy refused to let her into the barn.
So Lucy left you behind.
Which is icon behaviour and very justified, I think. Don't let the woman that just murdered someone and is wearing her skin into the barn with your dead son, who you're trying to resurrect. So the barn then disappeared with both James and Lucy inside of it. So now Arla wants Audrey to open up the barn, bring James out of it, and then they can reunite.
It's time for you to return James to me.
Sure, he's not going to have a problem with all of the murder and stuff. I'm sure he'll be chill about that. Also, for some more information, because there's not enough being thrown at you right now, Arla says that James told her before he died that there was a way to end the troubles for good and not just 27 years.
That he and Lucy found a way to save her from the barn and still end the troubles. End them for good.
So there was a permanent cure that didn't involve Audrey going into the barn, disappearing from existence forever, coming back 27 years later as a whole new person. Apparently there's a different way to cure them forever.
You take me to James, and you won't ever have to worry about going away again.
Audrey then gets all maternal about James, which is really cool to see.
What makes you think after everything you've done that I'm gonna let you near my son?
Audrey's activated mum mode. In response, Arla just threatens to kill everyone. This episode then closes out with the meteors starting to fall in Haven and the barn appears on a hill, so does Howard, and then James steps out of the barn as well. Here we go. We've got a visual on James and his font has changed. You can't see him. His font has changed to purple because he's not dead. That's James. He's here. Episode 13 is titled Thanks for the Memories, and it is the best finale of the series and quite possibly the best episode of the series. I don't know how I'm going to tackle this, but let's just go. Duke and Nathan arrive at Audrey's loft the next morning and see that there's been a struggle and Audrey's missing. They figure that Arla has taken her out somewhere and is going to try and make her get into the barn. Duke says that that means that the troubles might be gone if Audrey has gone into the barn. Nathan gets really angry at Duke's priorities, or what he thinks Duke's priorities are. Duke explains himself in a very Duke way.
Did you feel that? No. That means that Audrey hasn't gone in the barn yet.
Then the two of them head out to find Audrey. Nathan remembers that the barn that wiped Broadry's memories back in season 2 was out at Kick 'em Jenny Neck. So they figure that the barn's going to be there again. So that's then where they head. At Kick 'em Jenny Neck, Arla's leading Audrey to the barn so that she can bring James out. And Audrey's not thrilled. She's also roasting Arla.
Till I tell him that you're a psycho serial killer.
Thanks for getting back to your roasting behaviour, Audrey. We see Howard bird watching. Go off, Howard. Live your life, buddy. Howard tells the two of them that James is back in town. So then Arla heads after James and tells Audrey not to follow. So now Howard takes Audrey on a little stroll at Kick 'em Jenny Neck. They go for a stroll. together. Duke and Nathan are speeding over. Very iconic. Howard explains the barn to Audrey a little bit. Howard says that the barn isn't as simple as Audrey stepping in and then the troubles and it disappearing. And then he says this to her.
Not that simple. It was. I could just pick you up and throw you in.
Her response is great.
No, it couldn't.
Once again, it's always good to see Audrey roast some people. We'll never get sick of it. Howard says that she has to want to go away and solve the troubles and her existence disappear forever in order for the barn to disappear. And for that to happen, she has to want it to happen. Audrey clarifies the issue with that.
I don't want to go away.
Howard says that she'll be back in 27 years, but then Audrey points out that that's not exactly true.
Audrey Parker goes away, dies.
And then Audrey says something that breaks my heart.
And I don't want Audrey to die.
Howard then says that she can go back into town and try and figure out a way to stay. Audrey's a little confused, so then Howard threatens what will happen if she doesn't disappear with the barn.
Until the town and everyone you love in it have been destroyed.
Duke and Nathan finally show up, and now a meteor crashes into the lighthouse. The Haven lighthouse that cannot catch a break, a meteor hits it and destroys it. Audrey tells the guys that they have to move quick to find James and figure out how to stop the troubles for good. Our trio continue to try and track down James. We see Arla and James hiding out, and Arla is trying to help a very much sick James. He's not doing so hot. James quickly questions how Arla still looks the same after 27 years.
Why do you still look so young?
She avoids it, understandably, because it's because of lots of murder. James says that he thinks that his mum's after him again, and Arla says that she won't let her hurt him. So that's weird. There's lots of info coming in hot right now. It's not slowing down. This episode is a whirlwind. Duke then calls Arla and seems to want Audrey to go into the barn.
I know that Audrey has to go in the barn.
What you doing there, Duke? Duke, James, and Arla all show up at the barn. Then Audrey and Nathan show up at the barn. Arla threatens Nathan. Everyone is out here threatening Nathan in order to control Audrey, and I've had enough of it. So then it obviously turns out that Duke was playing Arla the whole time in order to get her to bring James to the barn. Audrey figures that the barn will only leave when she wants to go.
Maybe it only disappears when I'm ready to leave.
Because of what Howard said, so go in, heal James, and have the barn not disappear with her in it. James is way ahead of her. He just heads in. Audrey and Nathan decide to head in after him. Nathan gives us this line.
It's a big deal. It's just a barn.
I love him. It definitely doesn't look like a barn on the inside though. Nathan quickly notices that he can feel when he's inside, so his trouble is not a thing when he's inside of this barn. This then gives Nathan an idea to blow up the barn to release its trouble fixing abilities. Then the two of them get transported into a memory of Sarah's, where Vince and Dave tried to stop her from disappearing with the barn by attempting to blow it up, which is what Nathan just mentioned trying to do. It didn't work with Sarah and therefore won't work now. Sarah thanks Vince and Dave for trying to help her stick around, and then she says this about James's father.
He's not even born yet.
Nathan reacts understandably, and Audrey's still just confused because she's got no idea. She's got no clue, but we do. But they have their doubts that maybe that was a fake memory that he showed them to get them to not try and blow up the barn. Howard then proves that this attempt of the barn blow up memory is a real memory. Howard sends them to one of Sarah's memories that Nathan will recognize and therefore know that the other memory was real too.
I'm going to show you a memory of Sarah's that you know is real, Nathan.
This memory is one that Nathan doesn't love Audrey witnessing. So I'm sure we can figure out what it might be. Yep, it's Nathan and Sarah having sex in a car. That's the memory that Howard's taken them to. Nathan's cringe at watching himself is very funny. Audrey is appalled by what she's seeing, which is so fair.
Oh my God.
As per usual though, we don't have time to deal with it because they get transported back into the barn and then separated. Nathan runs into James and introduces himself.
I'm your father.
It's a little strange. Let's put James on Nathan's tree too and let's sort that out. Give me a moment. Here we go. Here's the developments. The only thing that's changed on Audrey's tree is this little blue dad line from Nathan to James, because these will get better probably in the next part when I figure out how the hell to articulate it, but for now I don't know, so this is the best I can do. Nathan's tree has changed a bit more significantly. We've had to add both James and Arla, and then do a really strange mum line for Sarah and Audrey, technically the same person, and then a dad line to James. Are we following? I don't know how to simplify that. This is what we're working with. I love this mess of a show. It's so fun. Nathan tells James that him and Audrey have been looking for him. James says that when he came back to Haven looking for Sarah, his mum, he found Lucy in a panic instead. James was born to Sarah. Sarah gave him up for adoption to the Cogans. James grew up into a 27-year-old man, went back to Haven looking for Sarah, his mum, found Lucy, who she had been reincarnated as, and she was a bit panicky when he found her. She had just found out that she was going to disappear. James told Lucy that he would help her figure out another way.
I said there's got to be another way.
So that she didn't have to disappear forever. Obviously that worked out well. Sorry, Lucy. James and Lucy did figure out a way to stop the Troubles forever and not make Lucy disappear.
We'll just find out what's the other way.
But that way, he says, is his own death.
My death was the only thing that could keep her out of the barn.
So James's death is what would cure the Troubles forever and make sure that Audrey, in whatever form she's in, doesn't have to disappear with the barn for 27 years. How we doing? Still with me? Nathan tells James that Lucy would not have been down to do that, to kill James, and James seems to think otherwise. James was told by Arla that Lucy was the one that killed him.
Arla found out it was my mom.
Arla told James that Lucy murdered him. So, yeah, Nathan tells James that Arla is lying and that Lucy did not kill him, but then James disappears. Everyone's disappearing constantly. It's very frustrating. We need to just talk this out. Outside the barn, Arla calls out Duke for also being in love with Audrey, which we kind of knew. It's just something that kind of happens in the background, and Arla uses it to have a dig at Duke.
At least admit it to yourself.
Thanks, Arla.
Not taking advice from a walking purse.
The guard shows up and Arla exposes Duke once again, and then Jordan roasts him. Jordan, I'm gonna need you to just stop. Inside of the barn, Nathan and Audrey discuss the whole James is our son thing.
Our son.
They talk about that for the first time.
Guess it was a way to be with you.
Audrey takes it pretty well, considering.
Part of me's glad. Proof that I existed.
There is a lot of other stuff happening, so there's not a lot of time, but she takes it decently for right now. Nathan tells Audrey that James thinks that killing him is what ends the Troubles. James thinks that his own death is what is going to end the Troubles forever and stop the 27-year cycle.
But somehow killing him ends the Troubles.
Audrey gets the cranks a little bit and tells Howard to bring James to her. So this is technically the first time that the two of them meet, and it doesn't go well.
It's so good to finally meet you.
James desperately wants to see Arla, so Audrey says yeah, I'll bring her in. Back outside, Vince and Dave continue to be bad brothers to each other. Their conflict about breaking the cycle continues.
We tried before. Doesn't mean we can't try again.
Things are still tense outside with the guard. They're just always a nuisance. Vince shows up and orders the guard to leave. So it turns out that Vince runs the guard. He's their leader. Are we surprised? We shouldn't be. But it is kind of crazy that he's the leader of the guard. I told you that the info was coming in hot this episode. You've got to keep up with me here. Audrey steps outside the barn really quick and tells Arla to come inside to see James. However, when Arla steps inside of the barn, her trouble stops working, which Audrey knew because of Nathan's instant revelation about being able to feel. Arla now looks like a patchwork of dead women's skin. Arla tries to keep it chill.
My skin fell off, but I live inside the skin of other people.
But Audrey calls her out.
Tell him how many women you murdered to get that skin.
You murdered people?
James is upset, obviously, by that news about what his wife's been up to. James being upset with her upsets Arla. So then some kind of crazy stuff happens really quick, so I'll just break it down. Arla goes to stab Audrey, but James steps in, blocks the stabbing and saves Audrey, but then he gets stabbed himself by saving Audrey. This angers Arla even more because now she's stabbed James, so she continues to attack Audrey. Audrey then stabs Arla in the struggle. Arla got stabbed. Audrey didn't, so yay for Audrey. Not so yay for James, though, because he's still stabbed. Audrey is now holding James, her son, who is bleeding out and dying from being stabbed, and he realizes that Arla lied to him and that Lucy definitely didn't kill him. Audrey asks why he thinks that Lucy would have killed him, and then he says that it would have ended the troubles, and then she asks why, and he explains this.
That killing someone she loved was the only way to end the troubles. Not just for 27 years, but forever.
Audrey is confused, as I'm sure we are, but it's gonna be okay. James then points out to Audrey that they've only just technically met, though. Audrey has only just met her son.
We just met, so you don't love me.
I mean, it's complicated, but she doesn't love him, but she does, but it's not what we need for trouble curing kind of love. It's not that yet. It's very complex. So then James asks Audrey who she loves.
Who do you love, Audrey?
And who her killing would solve the troubles, and who her killing would solve the troubles. How do I articulate this? James asks Audrey who she loves, which is the same thing as asking who would you have to kill in order to stop the troubles forever. Does that make sense? I think I've done it. Regardless, we all know the answer to that question. It's right here. It's him. Audrey continues to hold James, her son, as he dies. Audrey then confronts Howard, and he says that James will heal in the barn. He'll come back to life. So it's going to be okay for James. He'll come back. Did he die? It seemed like he died again, but he's going to come back. Audrey doesn't want him to be stuck in the barn, though. She wants him to have the life that she can't have. It's all very sad. We're about to get a lot of info once again. This time it's very sci-fi-y, so prepare. Howard says that the barn is like an amplifier for Audrey. So her energy is trouble-curing energy. When she's inside the barn, it amplifies over all of Haven and the troubles aren't around.
When you're in it, your energy keeps the troubles at bay.
However, every 27 years, her trouble-curing energy starts to deplete.
After 27 years, that energy starts to run out.
The troubles return to Haven because she's run out of trouble-curing juice and her amplifier doesn't work. So in order for her to recharge, the barn spits her back out into Haven as a new person with a new personality and new memories. Audrey asks an important question.
Recharge? Recharge with what?
And Howard says this.
Love.
Apparently love and human experience energizes her trouble-curing abilities so that she can go back inside the barn again after a little while and stop the troubles again. Until the battery runs out again, she has to go recharge with love and relationships and being allowed to live a life, and then she has to go disappear and amplify her trouble curing for another 27 years. How are we doing? This is a check-in moment. Haven doesn't always feel like a sci-fi show, but when it does, it goes hard into it. Audrey asks Howard if she's even human, which is a fair question right now. Howard says that that's her whole problem. That's her whole issue.
You are very, very human.
She asks why she has to kill the man that she loves in order to end the troubles.
Am I being punished?
Howard answers with this.
It does seem that way.
At the time, like right now, kind of seems like a throwaway, but it is once again an example of some good ass foreshadowing. Howard confirms that there's only two ways to end the troubles. One is for 27 years, which is Audrey going away with the barn, Audrey essentially dying. 27 years later, she'll come back as someone completely new, and Audrey will be gone forever. The other way ends the troubles forever, and that's killing the person that she loves, which we know to be Nathan. She makes this decision very quickly, which we're not surprised by, and so she says she needs to go back outside the barn and say goodbye to everyone.
I need to say goodbye.
Here we go. I cannot get through this scene without crying. It's so good and so powerful, and you just have to watch the whole thing yourself. Just know that as I'm editing this video and having to put in clips of this scene and rewatching it, I'm crying. Know that. Know that I'm weeping. It's so beautiful. Now, really quick, I haven't talked about the original score for the show by Sean Pierce, but oh my god, it's so great. It's really, really beautiful, so unique to Haven. I wish that there was more of it available on Apple Music. I want all of it. I want to listen to that in my car and I want to cry. Give me that. It's really good. It's Haven's signature. Listen to it. Watch this scene in particular to kind of feel it really make such a huge impact on the show and the storytelling. I'm of course mentioning this now because this whole sequence would not be the intense emotional experience that it is without this score. Thanks, Sean. I have to stop stalling from talking about this scene. I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to get through it. The meteors are continuing to fall onto Haven, destroying the town. Audrey tells Nathan that killing James won't work, and that's all she says to him right now. She doesn't elaborate, for obvious reasons. Then she goes around and says goodbye to the whole gang individually. First we have Dwight.
Sorry about the mess.
Then we have Vince and Dave. Next up is Duke. He's good old Duke. I love them.
I'm sorry I won't remember you when I come back.
Especially Colorado.
It's a great goodbye. I don't want to cry. Their relationship's really beautiful. This scene is really nice. Finally, it's our boy. It's his turn for Audrey to say goodbye to him. And oh my God. Before she even says anything to him, she just kisses him. The score reaches a climax and it's such a catharsis for the two of them. It's so good.
Parker, if we...
Beautiful. I'm crying. It's a lot. It's lovely. Possibly the most iconic Nordry moment of the show. Nathan is still really fighting the concept of her going away. He's like, no, you're not leaving.
This is not goodbye.
Audrey says that it's going to be okay and that she's going to be with their son.
Nathan, I won't be alone, all right? I'll be with our son.
Who thought that they could do this to me with a little sci-fi show? Who thought that that was okay? So then Nathan says this.
You're gonna die before I let you go.
Which doesn't surprise any of us because he's our ride or die man. So then Emily delivers this line, this tiny little line, and it kills me. This is when the sobbing starts.
I know.
Her just saying, I know. I don't know what it is, but I can't. Oh, talking about this scene is making me physically ill. I'm not doing well. Audrey goes over to Duke and she makes him promise to not let Nathan follow her into the barn and try to stop this from happening. Duke is as stoic as ever and says,
I promise, Audrey.
I've got you. He's not going to ruin this. You make your sacrifice. I'm fine. Not even upset about it. Audrey then says another absolutely heartbreaking line. She tells Nathan that it's going to be okay because...
27 years, Nathan. And we'll get to do it all over again.
27 years. To the core of my 12-year-old being, the first time I saw this, it will never leave me, that feeling. I'm sorry. It makes me emotional. Duke tries to talk some sense into Nathan and let Audrey make her choice.
And it is her choice. It's not yours.
Duke finally admits to Nathan that he's also in love with Audrey. He's just like, well, we can't let her go in. You love her too? Why are we doing this? I love him. Nathan then grabs Duke's gun, goes to chase after Audrey, but she gets inside the barn before he can stop her. So she's in the barn now, and Nathan has a gun, and he's very upset. Howard gets really smug with Nathan, but he doesn't realize that our boy is chronically a ride or die man who is known to exhibit unhinged behavior. Nathan threatens Howard, but then he gets shot by bloody Jordan. She's still here. So her shooting Nathan starts a full-blown shootout outside the barn. Similar to the stabbing inside of the barn, I'm going to have to break it down for you. Jordan shoots Nathan, who is obviously unfazed by being shot. It's whatever to him. So then he starts to light up Howard with bullets. Then Jordan continues to shoot Nathan before Duke shoots Jordan to stop her from shooting Nathan. So the people that have been shot are Nathan, Howard, a lot. Nathan really shot him a fair bit. And Jordan's been shot by Duke as well. It's a mess. Then, because the chaos can't actually stop yet, we have to keep suffering, the barn starts to tear open and glow. Howard's body does the same thing through all of the bullet holes that Nathan's put in. Now the barn is collapsing in on itself as a glowing kind of entity. While Nathan can't feel getting shot, he is still in fact shot and bleeding out a fair amount, and therefore has to tell Duke to go run inside the glowing, imploding barn and get Audrey out of there, because that's not looking so great, so she should probably get out. So Duke's like, yeah, I'm down to do that. So he runs at the glowing, imploding barn, and he gets swallowed by it and kind of sucked into it. Duke's inside there now too. Nathan sees this happen. He tries to get up and run at the barn before it fully disappears, but he doesn't make it in time. He's very much quite shot. He does manage to stand up once again and watch all of the meteors continue to fall onto Haven. So the meteors haven't stopped falling. The troubles haven't gone away. The barn has imploded with Duke Audrey and James inside, Howard's dead, Haven is just being completely destroyed by a meteor storm. The season closes out with Nathan standing up, bleeding out, and calling out to Audrey. That's how season 3 ends. How are we doing? How are we all? That's season 3. Alright, so real quick, I've decided for the next 4 parts of this series that I'm going to do a really quick tier list because it has become necessary. So this list is something that I'm going to call Nathan's top 3 unhinged moments of the season. It's got to a point where they have to be directly called out and addressed. So number 3, we have Nathan dating Jordan. Didn't like it at all. Unhinged behavior. Number 2 is shooting Howard and destroying the barn. Crazy behavior. He is so ride or die for Audrey that it's unhealthy. And number 1 is my personal favorite, sleeping with Sarah and conceiving the Colorado kid in the 1950s. The definition of unhinged Nathan behavior. Thank you, Nathan. Can't wait to see what you have in store for the next couple seasons and the next 3 parts of this series. Can't wait to see it. Thanks, buddy. Love ya. So when it comes to my top 3 episodes this season, it was incredibly hard to pick. So I'm giving 3 honorable mentions for this season as well. I'm not sorry about it. Here we go. Honorable mention number 1 is episode 3, The Farmer. Such a dark episode, some really great tension and developments between the characters, specifically with Duke and Audrey, and the discussion around the Crocker family curse and how / if it should ever be used. Love it. Honorable mention number 2 is episode 6, Real Estate. It's a haunted house episode of Haven. What more could you ask for? Heaps of development for understanding Lucy, which is always interesting. The tension between all the characters trapped in the house is so entertaining. The documentary for the creation of this episode also gives it major points. My last honorable mention is episode 11, Last Goodbyes. Now this one was so close to making it to top 3. I really do love it so much. Nolan and Emily starring in this episode together, giving us Nathan and Elena energy is so cool. The flashbacks of finding out who the skinwalker is at the police station were really cool. And the parallels between Will and Audrey and her kind of coming to the realization that she wants to fight her fate. Beautiful stuff. So in terms of my official top 3, at number 3, Magic Hour. Both parts, which is cheating, but I don't care. The Colorado incident, which is incredibly iconic and forever relevant. Nathan's death and resurrection are both in these parts. Finding out about the Sarah and James / Colorado kid being her son and also Audrey's son thing. We discover that Tommy is sort of the bolt gun killer and also Claudia Black just absolutely killing it. This 2-parter is beautiful. Okay, so number 2 and number 1 were very, very close. It was hard to pick one over the other. I'm gonna go ahead and say that number 2 is episode 9, Sarah. It could easily be anyone's top favorite episode of all time. We get time travel. We get a small little chief appearance, which we know I'm always appreciative of. The 1950s vibe is so much fun. More of Duke's family history, which is always crazy and chaotic. Seeing so much of Sarah and how different she is from Audrey, actualized and getting to know her so much was just fantastic. We don't really get that with Audrey's past selves yet. Anyway, we have the iconic Sarah Nathan hookup / conception of the Colorado kid on the beach. They did that. They did, in fact, make a baby. Now, number 1 should not really be a surprise. It's Thanks for the Memories, because wow, it's definitely my favorite episode of the whole series, for sure. It is absolutely heartbreaking. It's so significant for every single character. All of the character evolutions are done so well. It's beautiful as an episode. It looks beautiful. It feels beautiful. There's a little bit of a sprinkle of that trademark Haven humor. And of course, stellar performances. This episode could easily be the final episode of the whole series. It's so iconic. If they wanted to end it on this, I'd be mad. But I wouldn't be that mad because it's Haven in an episode. We have so many answers that we've always wanted. So much is done in 42 minutes? How did they do all of that? I could go on about this episode forever. I think it's perfect. The episode title gets me. It's thank you for the memories, Haven. Truly. Now, our most traumatized character this season, for sure, is, again, hopefully not a surprise to anyone. I hope that this is just obvious. It's our main girlie. How could it be anyone else? she finds out so much about her past lives and her awful impending fate. How do you process the past life situation? Her impending disappearance from existence means that she can't get a dog called Cookie, devastating, and she can't start a relationship with Nathan, so then she has to watch him be with Jordan for a significant amount of time. She has this ticking clock of disappearing from existence looming over her the entire season. She also has to spend so much of her time hunting down a skin-stealing serial killer. She finds out that she has a son who is her age that her past self from the 1950s had. So it is her kid. This son is also the Colorado kid who everyone thought was dead, but isn't, but did die. But her other past self resurrected him in a supernatural barn that kind of consumes her energy and stuff and takes her away for 27 years. Also, that serial killer that steals people's skin and murders people, that's her daughter-in-law. That's her son's wife. Also, her son's father is the man that she's currently in love with, that went back in time to the 50s and conceived her son with her 1950s past self. He did that. He fathered her son, but she didn't even get to conceive the son with Nathan. Her 1950s self, Sarah, got to do that. She didn't even get to do that. But they have a kid together genetically. That's traumatizing. Finding out that there's a way to cure the troubles forever, the troubles that she's been in Haven this whole time fighting, saving people from, trying to help alleviate the suffering and danger for people in this town that she's grown to love. There's a way to cure them forever, but it's to kill Nathan. So she can't do that. So she has to submit to her fate, disappearing from existence and essentially dying, and then reappearing 27 years later with all of her memories, her existence, her identity, her relationships, her feelings, all gone, all vanished forever. And she's just going to come back and have to do it all over again and find out everything all over again and go through all the trauma all over again. Wait, also, she started off this season tied to a pole in a basement, getting beat up by her daughter-in-law. Audrey wins the trauma title, no competition. Now that does it for season 3. Season 4 and both parts of season 5 really start to lean a lot more into the sci-fi of it all. They certainly evolve the show into something different, but also still the same. It's essentially a new era of Haven, so get ready for it. I'm excited to talk about it and try and explain what goes on there. This was a struggle. Remember when I said that these trees would become relevant?
But trust me, they will become very helpful later.
I think it's safe to say we've hit that point and it's not over. So good luck to me. I'll see you for season 4.